This is our 15th Mayor's Development Roundtable, and I can still recall the very first one. I was on the city council and attended, and I remember being just so impressed and amazed at the amount of information that was presented to it that I cared about. And, you know, you would think a person on the city council is pretty high up on the information chain, but I learned so much, and I have always wanted this event to be an opportunity for us to exchange information and to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understands what's going on in different parts of the city. I also, though, acknowledge that perhaps the most valuable component of this conversation that we have today is the interaction that takes place out in the hallway during our breaks. I know in this room today we have bankers and we have developers and we have civic planners, and the idea that they can all congregate and have conversations that might lead to the next big deal just around the corner always impresses me and is a reminder of just the economic good and the civic good that comes out of placemaking and gathering in groups like this to have conversations about the next generation of topics. We're going to continue the 2020 lightning round this year. People seem to think that is one of the best opportunities to hear about a lot of different things in a short period of time. We're going to focus on some exciting projects, as you can imagine. Right before lunch, we're going to hold a super panel. You'll be able to ask today's speakers some questions. And every table has some question cards. So as a question comes up to you, please pull out that card and fill out a question, and then we will try to get to them. We do have an outstanding lineup of presenters today. As most of you know, Jennifer Haroon from Google X is here, and Greg Fischer, one of the top mayors in the country, is here from Louisville. We're so pleased that both of them would come. And it is coincidental, but very ironic, I think, that you know, in a week in which we have advanced to take on the Bay Area's most highly advanced sports team, Jennifer Haroon flies in from the Bay Area. The very next day, that series is announced. So although Stephen Curry and his friends won't be here until later in the week, Jennifer Haroon from Google X is here with us this morning, and she has quite the resume. She previously launched Project Link, which was a wholesale metro fiber network in Kampala, Uganda. She has represented Google on the Alliance for Affordable Internet. She has launched a number of Google's health-related initiatives, including Google Flu Trends and the Flu Vaccine Finder. Prior to Google, she was a project leader at the Boston Consulting Group. The main reason we asked her to come today, though, is she is now head of business operations at self-driving cars for Google X. Her visit today is sponsored again by the University of Central Oklahoma's MBA program. And here to kick off our roundtable and share the exciting news about self-driving cars, please join me in welcoming Jennifer Haroon.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you everyone for having me here today. It's exciting for me always to talk about self-driving cars. I think it's one of the innovations that I think will have a great impact on society. But of course, you can read about it in the press, but there's one thing I've learned in joining this team is you can't believe everything you read in the press. So I'm glad to be here to tell you a little bit more about Google's views on self-driving cars and what we're working on. When I talk about self-driving cars, I always like to start with a little bit of history. Carl Benz invented the automobile in 1885. And what many of you may not know is when he took it out for his first public test drive, he crashed it into a wall. Now, I don't tell that story to criticize Carl Benz. In fact, he invented the automobile. How awesome is that? But I like that story for two reasons. One is that story of innovation. He had a tough time, his first time, taking it out for a public test drive, but he kept going, and look where we are today. And at Google X, that's really the spirit that we think about in innovation, is you have to keep trying. The other reason I like this story is because we're constantly asked, why did Google start working on self-driving cars in the first place? And one of the reasons is even though car makers have done so much to make driving safer, things like seatbelts, making the structure of cars much better, and of course governments have played their parts in terms of road safety, safety is still an issue. And in fact, it's our #1 reason for working on self-driving cars. You may know that 33,000 people die every year on US roads. And since 33,000 people in car crashes, car crashes are normally 1, maybe 2 people, so you don't really hear about it a lot. And so the analogy we like to use is it's the same as a 737, this aircraft, falling out of the sky 5 days a week. If that were happening, we would all be talking about it. So we really think there's a lot of work still to be done in terms of road safety. Now, why do all those crashes happen? Well, interestingly enough, for all crashes, not just those that end in fatalities, 94% of them are due to human error. 94%. That's really the place where we think self-driving technology can make a big difference. And what does that human error do to? Well, distracted driving is certainly one of the reasons. And distracted driving existed before devices, right? We all do it. You're driving home from work, you're thinking about what's for dinner, maybe you're thinking about what your kids did today, you're driving to work, thinking about your first meeting. All of that is distracted driving as well. The other big reason we started working on self-driving cars is accessibility. This gentleman's name is Steve Mahan. If you've ever seen any of our YouTube videos, you might recognize him. He's visually impaired. And so for those who are visually impaired, have other physical disabilities, and perhaps it's just your parents or grandparents where you've had to take away their keys or they've lost their license, that's really tough. We live in a society that really relies on driving. For Steve, he lives in the Bay Area, near me, and it should take him about 30 minutes to drive to work every day. But given our public transit system, and because he can't drive, it actually takes him about 2 hours. And this picture is from a few years ago when we let him drive one of our self-driving cars, of course, with members of our team on board. And we thought he would do crazy things, right? One of the first people ever to drive a self-driving car. But Steve took it to go through a fast food drive-through, because he never gets to do that. He took it to pick up his dry cleaning, because that's a real pain to do when you're visually impaired. So for our team, that's really inspirational, and that accessibility is a huge part of why we work on self-driving cars. A little history about our program. It actually started well before Google started working on self-driving cars. And really, the start for many members of our team was when DARPA sponsored what they called the Grand Challenges. This was in the mid-2000s. So our defense agency asked teams of researchers, mostly from universities, to see if they could come up with basically a self-driving car. And they gave them a challenge. It was to drive in the desert. And the first year they held this challenge, nobody finished. In fact, the car that went the furthest went only 7 miles. And some of the cars ended up upside down and on fire and who knows what else. So it doesn't seem like it was very successful. But again, DARPA had that spirit of innovation. Instead of saying, wow, that was a failure, the farthest car went 7 miles. Instead, they said, wow, a car drove itself through the desert for 7 miles. That's amazing. And so they held it the next year, and a team won the next year, and a few more cars finished. And then they actually held some urban challenges, where they took an old Air Force base and turned it into an urban environment and asked teams to compete in driving through a city-like environment. And the last team to win was from Carnegie Mellon, and the person who led that effort is now our CTO, Chris Urmson. And after the DARPA challenges, a bit of the energy around the self-driving car idea dissipated just a little bit. But when Google invited some of the members from various of these DARPA's teams to come to Google, our CEO, Larry Page, also set them on a challenge because there was still this question of if self-driving cars are really possible. We thought it was because some of the advances in computing. And so the team got their challenge from Google, and that challenge was to drive 100,000 miles autonomously, which was magnitudes more than had ever been done, and then to drive some interesting routes, which you can see on the screen. And those interesting routes were things like driving between Mountain View, where Google is based, up to San Francisco, which is about 40, 50 miles, both on the freeway, but also on a city street that has about 240 intersections in between the two cities. It included driving on Lombard Street in San Francisco, that curvy part, and driving around Lake Tahoe. So a number of different interesting routes. And the team achieved those goals. And that's when we really started investing in our self-driving car program. Now, another common question I get is, how do our self-driving cars work? And so at its base, we add a number of things onto a vehicle to make it self-driving. That includes a number of sensors that work together, like lasers, cameras, radars, and then we add a computing system onto each car as well. From there, we create a map using these vehicles of anywhere that we're going to drive. So we need that map first. Now, for those of you who have a navigation system on your car, or maybe use Google Maps, this map is a little bit different. It's much more detailed. As you can see, it has things like curbs. We also map the height of traffic signals, and we map things like the speed limit of the road. Then the vehicle uses that map plus those sensors that I just mentioned, and those two things together tell the vehicle where it is in the world. Now again, it's not exactly like your vehicle's navigation system. Your vehicle's navigation system primarily uses GPS, so it can tell you what street you're on. But our vehicle knows what lane it's in on that street. And in fact, it knows that down to about 10 centimeters accuracy. From there, the vehicle does the same thing you might do while you're driving. It wonders, what's around me? And that's where our 360-degree view with our sensors comes into play. So this is a view of what the car sees. In this example, those purple boxes are other vehicles. You might see a red box a little to the right, that's a bicyclist. And up at the top are some orange boxes. Those are construction cones. Now, driving's a dynamic activity. So it's nice to know what's around you in that moment of time, but you want to know what all those objects are going to do. And that's where our software comes in. So in this example, you can see in the camera view in the lower left-hand corner, there's a black pickup truck. And in the car's view, you'll see that the car believes that that black pickup truck is going to make a lane change. Why is that? Well, the car sees the construction cones, believes that means that lane is closed, and therefore that black pickup truck needs to make a lane change. Now, it's very nice to know what that black pickup truck is doing, but our vehicle needs to know what all the objects around it might do. And so it's calculating many times every second what every object around it might do. And from there, it then determines what it's going to do. That's that green, we call it a carpet. That's the trajectory that our vehicle is planning to take. Now, I'm going to share with you a series of videos because I think it helps show the car in action. These are all videos from the vehicle driving in California. So when we first started our program, we focused on highway driving. That's because driving on a highway is relatively easy. The objects are all going in the same direction, and there aren't a lot of other things other than vehicles on the road. There aren't a lot of pedestrians or bicyclists. But here's an intersection near Google's offices in Mountain View. And as you can see, city street driving or surface street driving is much more difficult. Vehicles are headed in multiple directions, there's pedestrians, there's bicycles. And of course, when you're driving through town, you might encounter a construction zone. And so here, our vehicle knows to edge to the right part of the lane because it sees the construction cones on the left part of the lane. Here, it recognizes a vehicle with funny lights on top, means it has to stop, but then when it's safe, it can go around. Whereas this vehicle with funny lights on it, you can't go around. So you still have to stop, but then you have to wait for it to proceed. Here, our self-driving car recognizes a bicyclist, hand signals. So this bicyclist keeps indicating he wants to turn left. So the self-driving car is yielding, making room for him. And then we're doing things like teaching our car to recognize a person standing in the middle of the road using hand signals, because sometimes traffic lights go out. Now, those are all pretty basic things that you maybe learn very early in your driving time. But all of us who drive know that sometimes things happen on the road that are a little more unexpected. And so again, here are a series of videos from us driving around California. Here we recognize this as a bicycle, even though it's a pretty unique looking bicycle. Here we recognize a vehicle, even though it's small and cute. In this next scene, this gentleman jumps out of his truck, and our vehicle makes space. Here, watch this car to our left. Oh, makes a right turn in front of us. Here, our vehicle is making a lane change, and the car to the left wants to make one too. Here, we yield for a red light runner. Here, our vehicle yields for a bicyclist running a red light. And this last one is just a team favorite. This person pulls in perpendicular traffic between two self-driving cars, which doesn't happen in every town. So those went by rather quickly. I'm going to slow one down because I really think it shows the power of self-driving technology. I'm going to take that bicyclist running a red light. So here you can see our vehicle's at an intersection. You can see both in the car's view and the camera view that our vehicle has a red light. Now, you might also tell that our vehicle and the vehicle to our left, if we were a human sitting in either of those cars, our view of that left-hand curb is blocked because the car to the left is pulled a little bit further into the crosswalk. And in fact, you can see that in the lower left-hand corner camera view. That's that black SUV. So if we were to look left, sitting in our self-driving car, you would see the black SUV, you wouldn't see the left curb. But if you look at the car's view, the car can see the left curb, and in fact, it sees a bicyclist on that left curb. That's the light blue box. Now, why is that? I mentioned that the vehicle has a 360-degree view at all times, and it's actually out to about 2 football fields. Now, while our car uses multiple sensors, in this case, it's the laser sensor on top of the car that really is helping us see that bicyclist. And here's that raw laser data. It's a bunch of dots. So if we turn it towards that left curb, this is what the raw laser data looks like. Now, I don't know about you, but it looks like a bunch of random dots to me. So how does our vehicle know which set of dots indicate it's a bicyclist? Well, with our fleet of vehicles, we've now driven over 2 million miles, and over 1.5 million of those have been autonomously. That means that over that time, we've seen many, many different types of vehicles of all shapes and sizes. We've seen many, many different types of pedestrians of all shapes and sizes and carrying all sorts of things. And we've seen many, many different bicyclists of all shapes and sizes. So using our software and a technology commonly called machine learning, our vehicle knows that this set of dots in that light blue box is a bicyclist. Now, those of you with really good eyesight might be able to squint and see in that camera view in the lower left-hand corner that the bicyclist has a yellow light. So let's turn the view back to the car's view. Here we are, still at a red light. That bicyclist has a yellow light, but the bicyclist is entering the intersection anyways. And in fact, given the bicyclist's speed and trajectory, our vehicle is predicting the bicyclist will stop at the middle median. That's that dark blue line coming out of the light blue box. But I mentioned before that driving is very dynamic, and so our car is making calculations constantly. And in fact, a few seconds later, the self-driving car's light turns green. You can see that in the camera view and the car's view. But now, given that bicyclist's speed and trajectory, our vehicle believes it will run the red light and go all the way through the intersection. That's the red line coming out of the light blue box. And so even though the light is green, our vehicle is not going. Now, that black SUV that was blocking our visual view doesn't see the bicyclist, maybe thought the bicyclist was going to stop at the middle median, and quite frankly, let's be fair. What do most of us do when the light turns green? Slam on that accelerator. And so that black SUV started going. Now, in this case, fortunately for everyone, the bicyclist was able to swerve. An accident was avoided. But our vehicle waited till the bicyclist was all the way through the intersection before proceeding. So you can imagine in all the miles we've driven, we've seen lots of scenes like this. And this really is where self-driving technology can play a big role. I'm going to share with you another video. It seems like I'm picking on bicyclists, but I think this one's pretty interesting as well. This is also driving in Mountain View, California. And I swear not all our bicyclists are like this. But I sometimes get asked, what about at night? And actually, given the suite of sensors we use, not all of them rely on light the way that the human eye does. And so our cars actually have a great view at night. Now, before I play this video, I'm going to explain it to you. And I'm happy to play it more than once, because it happens quite quickly. Now, our vehicle is going down a street in Mountain View at night, and you can already see that it sees a bicyclist in its lane, on the left-hand part of its lane. That's the light blue box again. Now, when I play the video, you'll see that this bicyclist is bicycling a little oddly. What's going to happen is around the right-hand corner, another bicyclist is going to pop out, bicycling the wrong way down the road, and in fact turn into the path of our vehicle, also going the wrong way, the bicyclist also going the wrong way down the road. Now, what's interesting about this, and again, why the self-driving technology is so powerful, is the vehicle is able to watch multiple objects at once and track what they're doing. And most people, when they watch this video, think that if they were driving, they'd be watching that one bicyclist that you see right now, be distracted by that bicyclist because of the way he or she is bicycling, and would totally miss the other bicyclist. And in fact, our CTO is pretty convinced he would have hit that second bicyclist. So let me play the video. Here we are. There's one bicyclist in the left lane turning right. Boom. There's a second bicyclist. Play it one more time. First bicyclist. Boom. Before that second bicyclist is all the way around the corner, our vehicle already sees it and is slowing down. Another common question, after seeing all those strange things that happen on public roads, is, well, do we then program the car for every situation that might ever happen on roads? And of course, the answer is no. We can't predict everything that will ever happen on roads. Some of those scenes that I showed you are maybe more common than others, like cars or bicyclists running a red light, but others are totally unpredictable, like those two bicyclists at night. And so instead, we train our vehicles to recognize when the situation they're faced with is weird. That's what we call it. And so when the vehicle recognizes that a situation is weird, we then program it to do the safest thing possible. Because remember, safety is our #1 goal. And so the safest thing possible might be to pause and wait for this weird scene to pass. It might be to pull over. And so here's another scene from driving around Mountain View. Now you're going to think Mountain View is really strange. And we're driving in a residential area. Our vehicle turns the corner and encounters a duck in the road being chased by a woman in an electric wheelchair, and she's wielding a broom. So, I like to think of my teammates as being very smart people, but none of them said, you know what, Jennifer? One day our car's gonna drive down the street and encounter a duck in the road being chased by a woman in an electric wheelchair wielding a broom, right? No one has predicted that yet. And will that ever happen again? Hard to say. But what the car saw was those objects in the road, and in fact, it saw that the behavior of those objects was erratic, not very predictable. And so it wasn't safe to pass around this strange scene. And so it paused, waited for the scene to pass, which it did, and then proceeded. One last thing I'll mention is we often get asked, why are we going after fully autonomous driving? By fully autonomous driving, I mean going from point A to point B at the push of a button without needing to interact with a car at all. Well, when we first started our program, I mentioned we started with highway driving. And in fact, we had gotten really good at highway driving. So good that in the 2012-2013 timeframe, we decided to do a dog food. At Google, we call testing things on your own employees dog fooding, eating your own dog food. And so we asked for volunteers at Google who were not part of the self-driving car team, and we took about 100 of them. And we gave them some training. We explained to them that the vehicle needed to be driven onto the highway. Then you would push a button, and the vehicle would stay in its lane. It would moderate its speed for stop-and-go traffic. Then, when you wanted to exit, you would take back over, exit, and drive on city streets to wherever you were headed. Pretty nice. And so we had these 100 people. We gave them a little training and said, it's still a product in development, so you need to pay attention. Something might happen, and the car will tell you to take over even while it's on the highway. So, we gave about 100 people, they did their commuting. Now, the good news is they loved it. We heard so much feedback about how commuting, and Bay Area traffic can be pretty terrible, how commuting was so much better, people got home, they weren't as tired. And in fact, we did entry and exit interviews for these volunteers. And one Googler was a Porsche driver, and in his entry interview, he said, I don't know why Google's spending money on this. I'm only volunteering because I really think this is stupid. I drive a Porsche, I love driving my Porsche. A week later, he came for his exit interview, and he said, can I keep it? Not because he was going to get rid of his Porsche, but he said, I get it now. For my commuting, I want the self-driving car. And by the way, while I'm in the self-driving car, I noticed how terrible all the other drivers were. But I'm going to keep my Porsche. That's for my weekend driving, on the country roads, when the weather's nice. I still have my Porsche. And so as a product team, you would think we were so excited by this feedback. Why didn't we launch this product already? This was back in 2013. Well, the other thing we did is we had cameras in the vehicles. And we told our volunteers, we're going to watch what you do in the car. Remember, we told you you need to pay attention, just in case. Well, today, when people need to drive 100%, what are they doing in the car? They're on their phones, they're eating a hamburger, putting on their makeup, watching their kid in the back seat. So what do you think people did when they got in the car, got on the highway, and the car did everything we said it would do? It stayed in its lane, moderated speed for stop-and-go traffic. Forget about looking at your phone like this. Do you see people next to you trying to pretend that they're not actually on their phone? Now it was, phone's right here. I'm not even looking at the road, right? People got out their laptops. Right? We had one guy kind of lean back in his seat trying to scare the cars next to him to make it seem like the car is totally empty. Now, it's funny now, and luckily, our technology worked so well that we never had to have someone take over. But from that experience, we realized that this idea that a human would take over in an emergency situation, right, not a normal situation, when they're totally not paying attention to anything around them, they'll have no situational awareness, it actually could be more dangerous. And, by the way, we weren't meeting our accessibility goals. If you're our friend Steve Mahan, you're not going to drive the car onto the highway, let it drive itself, and then drive the rest of the way home. So that's when we made that decision to not just drive on highways, but on city streets, so that we really could take people from point A to point B at a push of the button and not ask them to pay attention and only when there was an emergency. And so as part of that idea, last year, we built a couple of prototype cars. That's what we call them. Kids like to tell us that they look like a marshmallow car, a koala car. Recently, I heard it looked like a toaster. But the reason why we built these cars was not because we want to become a car manufacturer. In fact, we've stated very publicly that we want to work with auto manufacturers. But because we want self-driving technology and we're working towards technology that is fully self-driving, we did want to think about what that means in terms of car design. And so if the person riding in one of our fully self-driving cars doesn't have to interact with the car at all, well, why does the car need a steering wheel? Why does it need a brake pedal? Why does it need an accelerator pedal? So this prototype car was designed without any of those manual controls. And again, if you think about it a little bit, when you get in a taxi, you get in the backseat of the taxi, you're expecting the taxi driver to make all the driving decisions for you. What if we put a steering wheel in the backseat of the taxi? Now, you tell your taxi driver, I want to go here. The taxi driver says, great, starts to make a left turn. You're thinking, it'll be faster to make a right turn. So, taxi driver's steering wheel, you're turning left, you're in the back seat turning right. What happens? Could be more dangerous. And so it's the same thing with a self-driving vehicle. Now, this prototype vehicle, here it's driving on a road in California. It currently has our test drivers on board, so we have some removable manual controls that we put in for them because we train them very specifically to understand that dynamic. The other thing we wanted to learn with these prototypes, and really with our Lexus fleet as well, is how do people feel when they're driving near self-driving cars? How do they feel when they're out for a jog near one, bicycling near one? After all, we've been driving in Mountain View for about 7 years. So our neighbors are sort of like, there's another one of those Google self-driving cars. So we brought our vehicles to new neighborhoods. Last year, we expanded our test driving program to Austin, Texas. Earlier this year to Kirkland, Washington, and then more recently to Phoenix, Arizona. And really the goal there is to hear from community members where we're driving, hear about how it feels, and to learn how they want to use a self-driving car one day. We hear everything from, I can't wait to own one, to, I don't want to own a self-driving car. I just want to use one when needed, when I want to go out to dinner and have a few drinks. It can take me home. So that's the reason why we've started expanding our driving, and we're really excited to be in our new neighborhoods and to learn from them. So I hope that tells you a little bit about the history of our self-driving program and where we're headed. Thank you very much.
Jennifer, thank you so much. That was very enlightening. I think that you need to make some allowance for those of us who have companions who like to sit in the back seat and offer helpful suggestions. So as you develop this, I think that would be something to think about. Well, the mayor said that we were bringing back this year the lightning rod rounds, which had been so popular. And we're doing that today. I want to tell you just a little bit about it. We're going to have first 3 local leaders sharing projects, programs, and placemaking that will influence a better quality of life. And they're going to do this in 6-minute, 40-second long presentations. They will present 20 slides each, set at 20 seconds each, and they'll talk about, first, we're going to have someone to talk about art in public places. He is the Community Development Director of the Alliance for Economic Development of OKC. Would you welcome Michael Owens? Michael?
Good morning. Public art communicates who we are. Art in public places is for everyone in our community, situated where you live, work, or play. We can be educated by art. There's a relationship between content and audience, and it often defines a physical location. Our definition of public art is changing. In the past, our definition of public art made us think about a bronze sculpture. These are the ways in which we memorialize important people in our lives, or important histories to our community and our nation, or important events we will never forget. But where we're going is less traditional. It is bigger and better than ever before. It is multifunctional, and it has a purpose. It is iconic for all the world to see. It's about all of us. It unites us, and it transforms us. To some of you, where we are going might seem less organized. It can break all previously held rules. It can be vibrant and playful, or just crazy at times, filled with bouts of restfulness. This makes a statement about the need for unique and untraditional, and oftentimes where you least expect it. Art in public places is becoming more and more community-based, often led by artists who have a story to share, or by stakeholders creating a new identity for a place. It can change perception and draw interest from a different type of community taking shape. It is our community narrative, displaying our identity in ways never seen before, portraying the history never recorded, the stories rarely told, the forbidden narratives of our time for all the world to see and understand in places that often forgets. It fits within the larger group of ideas we call placemaking. It helps start conversations, and it helps bridge the different points of views. It challenges our assumptions and beliefs. It can redirect our expectations, or certainly our point of views about public art itself. It establishes where we go, where it helps create a destination point. It makes territory with a distance, purpose reflected in the public artwork itself, creating a target for arrival and unifying a core of activity in a place. It is multi-generational. It has multi-generational appeal where children and adults alike are in awe of its splendor, becoming an arts playground for all ages, a defining edge for events in education. And when it's temporary, it vanishes and it leaves us wanting more. It's interactive in ways we previously could not have imagined. It can operate with light and technology and move as we move, changing color and brightness, and it makes us pause, smile, and bring happiness to our day. It is an anchor. It anchors a space by making a dramatic statement. It's bold with dimension and character, located in the center of an historic place where art happens. These become, yes folks, these become spots of celebration. It is sometimes ephemeral and not meant to last forever, but it is spectacular in its making, drawing crowds far and wide to see these artists do their work, to admire their freedom and freedom of expression and creativity, making it look effortless. It communicates where we've been and where we are going. We're reaching higher, getting better, rebuilding our city with these important statements about our civility, making investment in ourselves through art in public places, which serves as important tools to attract the most talented workforce. These are great assets of our past and our future. And our city collection is one we strive to maintain, with over 160 works of public art owned by, yes, you, our citizenry, valued at, get this, over $10 million. Each is an investment and a precious asset for future generations. In addition to creating value in public spaces, it creates jobs. Our nation's art industry generated just over $135 billion last year. The average expenditures when people travel to arts events is around $25. That covers meals, snacks, refreshments, parking, transportation, and anything else they might buy. Our city has set a standard for public art in public spaces. It makes our city livable. It serves as an educational, social, and community building tool. Each year, tourists and travelers bring $158 million in state tax revenue and $84 million in local tax receipts. We now have an expectation that public art is right for our community. Plus, more and more of our city's commercial districts use art in public places and their events, and also in special places. They are relying on art in public places to help them generate healthy increases in their sales each year. City leaders stand in support of public art. We thank our mayor and city council for establishing a 1% for art ordinance. This 1% pays for to construction costs for any building, park, or major renovation which is invested in the selection and maintenance of public art for public spaces. We believe public art is a priority throughout our community. It is a gateway to tomorrow and beyond. It is a never-ending circle that completes us. It unites our past, shapes our present, and charts our future. It is with this belief that we forge forward. But this is just the beginning. As an Oklahoma City Arts Commission with a newly adopted public art master plan, these are exciting times where our hard work and pioneering spirit can lead us to places where we would have never imagined. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Michael. That's very informative, and I want to say a very public thank you to the mayor and city council. They're here because they have provided that provision for public art in all of the MAP 3 projects, and it's something that we all take very seriously and appreciate very much. Our next presenters are from the music industry development, and they're going to talk to us about how that industry is moving along here. We have from ACM at UCO, Scott Booker, and from my favorite company in town, Hellfire Management, Scott Marsh. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for allowing us to speak about the continuing growth of the music industry in Oklahoma City here at the Mayor's Development Roundtable event. You know, Oklahoma has always had great talent.
Everyone knows the Garth Brooks, Carrie Underwood, Flaming Lips, and Leon Russells of the world.
The problem is many of these artists leave us for the call of Nashville, New York, or LA because they felt we had no industry support here in Oklahoma. But now it's starting to feel like the flow of great talent from our city is slowing down.
We've got newer artists like Parker Millsap, JB, and many others making their homes right here in Oklahoma City. And outside of that, we've got others like Horse Thief and many, many more moving in from out of state.
You know, what we've needed was a catalyst. And sometimes it can be a place, like the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, or sometimes it's a person like Willie Nelson with his family picnics in Austin, which eventually became South by Southwest. Here in Bricktown, I know that the ACM at UCO is becoming that catalyst for the growth of the music industry in Oklahoma City. Not only does it bring an amazing university experience to the metro, but it also grants accredited degrees in performance, production, and music business. These three areas are the key to building a music scene. The ACM brings in music industry professionals to Oklahoma so they can meet directly with our students in a series we call Industry Links. But even more exciting, we have master classes featuring artists like Jackson Browne, Roger Daltrey from The Who, Mumford & Sons, Nile Rodgers, the list goes on. And then we also have master classes with music business experts like the former president of Warner Brothers in Atlantic, Danny Goldberg, who was also the manager of Nirvana, and Benji Rogers, founder of Pledge Music, a direct-to-fan service company that works with artists as diverse as Dweezil Zappa, Weezer, and Macy Gray. The best part is most of the time, these are all open for anyone in the Metro to enjoy.
But while it's great to have these guests come here to speak to the students, what we're more excited about is when they go to their collective homes of New York, LA, London, and other large cities that have great music scenes and talk about everything that's happening right here in Oklahoma City.
I believe inspiration is virus, and I know that is what is happening in Oklahoma City's music scene. We're creating and nurturing new businesses like
Amplifan, a fan-to-artist social media platform that's in beta testing as we speak and has the potential to revolutionize how fans and artists connect. Or Fanswell, which is a fan-driven artist concert app that brings concerts directly into the homes of the fans of these artists.
Just like it is important for artists to build their fan base, it is now vital for Oklahoma City to increase the audience, people participating in all facets of music.
And every great city has their marquee room and the several venues around it that help build these markets. Oklahoma City now has a sustainable amount of great venues to help artists grow, both locally and on a national level. Opening in Bricktown 7 years ago was ACM Performance Lab, a 500-seat venue that's now become the I Saw Them Win venue. Great for local artists to grow from and to target as the venue they want to sell out first. Coming on board later this summer, we've got the Tower Theater, our very own historic venue in the heart of Oklahoma City with 1,000+ seats. And newly built, we have the Criterion, which is a top-tier, large-scale room holding 3,500 seats that's hosting mainstream artists of all genres, giving the young musical dreamers a glimpse at what they want to become and becoming a staple of the East End of Bricktown. This variety of venue size allows both Oklahoma and national acts to grow into our market. Each time they build a fan base to sell out one of these venues, they can now naturally grow into the larger venues. This also builds a lasting partnership between the artists and our market. But in addition to the venues, it takes strong local supporters and strong local promoters willing to take these steps with these venues to continue bringing in top-tier talent while fostering this local growth. Levelland Productions is the company for Oklahoma City that has stepped into this role. They continue to strive day in and day out to help venues like the Tower Theater, Criterion, and shows at ACM to grow and see OKC into the dawn of its musical identity. But we need the media. Media partnerships are key. Our local media need to buy into Oklahoma City being a viable market and a great scene. They need to stop telling the story already told. We don't need to review the concerts, we need to preview the concerts. Right now, there's a disconnect. We had Bruce Springsteen recently, and we're not hearing any of his music on the radio. We've got artists playing these larger venues around town and no radio support for them.
Part of the reason I helped start a school is because I strongly believe that music education for all ages is key to the continued growth of the music industry in Oklahoma. If we take music education out of the schools, it sets us back another decade in growing that audience. Education always makes me think of the future, though, and we've shown we are growing the music scene in the Metro, and what I believe is next is a new concept. We're seeing more countries trying to help their artists break in the US, and they're spending money to do it. We suggest building the first international music embassy in the center of the USA. Canada, Germany, Sweden, Norway all support their artists trying to break in America by sending them to music business conventions like South by Southwest, or simply paying for them to tour in the US. This embassy could be our international hub to bring artists to base themselves out of Oklahoma City while they try to win over the states. With the ACM and partners like Levelland, we have the venues, we have the recording and rehearsing facilities that the artists would need. Local businesses could provide trucking and gear, and our students could be the trained professionals to be their crews. Key to this, though, is a place for the bands to live while they're here. A couple of houses or apartments would be enough. If you have any ideas, please let us know, and thank you for supporting the growth of the music industry in our city.
Thank you, Scott and Scott. Next, we're going to hear about placemaking in our community. It is something that is very important to all of you, and we're delighted that we have someone here to talk to us about this today. Our presenter is from Dunlap Cotting. Would you welcome Doug Sirocco? Doug?
Good morning, and I have a confession to make. I am a lawyer, but I'm not here to talk about patent, copyright, trademark types of things this morning. I'm here to tell a story about our space called DC on Film Row. And with any good story, it begins upon once upon a time, back in 2009, 2010, we were having some conversations because our firm had been in towers for its entire existence of about 50, 60 years. And while the views were great, my partner Mark Brockhouse said, let's join this kind of urban renaissance that's happening in downtown, and let's try and make a difference. Let's really connect back with our community. Well, as part of this process of planning, we needed a kitchen because we bring in lunch every day for our employees, and the kitchen, the best place for it, was in this area where this big commercial garage door was located. We thought, well, let's make it out of glass, and if you have glass, you have to have something nice to look at. Well, let's do a park, or let's do a little seating area or a patio. And as part of that, when we started looking at it, one of my partners, Nick Rouse, said, well, we're never going to use it. You know, the weather in Oklahoma is hot. Maybe we'll get out there for a day or two. What are we going to do? And fortunately, the architects had given us these kind of drawings, and it made us realize, well, heck, let's let anybody in the community use it. Let's bring in people other than just ourselves. Let's give them a place. And so being the good lawyers we are, we made it free. We had two rules: treat all our neighbors with respect, whether it's Clay down at 21C or our folks from our homeless population, and basically leave the space in a better condition than you found it without a written contract. Now, when we moved in 2013, about 3 years ago, the space looked great. It's not looked that great since. But we had this kitchen, we had this kind of courtyard and conference rooms and things of that nature. And we let people know that they could use it. And amazingly enough, no one believed us. That evil lawyer kind of trope, you know, people thought that there was a scam or a catch. But as you can imagine, the first groups that really kind of embraced us were the nonprofits. And we had everything from literacy to pop-ups to Dead Center. We had every disease known to man, from Alzheimer's to autism to cystic fibrosis. We I think, rival St. Anthony's and some of the other hospitals. Right after the nonprofits came the music community, and it's been great to be a space for some of those bands coming out of ACM, UCO, some of the more established folks, have a place to play outside, kind of free of charge, to bring in their fans and their people who are interested in working with us. We even had to put together a monthly little festival to make more opportunities. Finally, you know, then coming in were the arts, and it could be the glass makers, it could be quilters. We've had people set up looms and make fabrics. We've even had Mike Wimmer do master classes in our space, teaching folks how to paint portraiture. And from time to time, we'll have a drag queen or two come by and do a show. Now, as you can imagine, as I say, the guys in ties show up as well. We've had meetings, we've had startups, we host entrepreneurial events every Wednesday at 9 a.m. with Rose State College and I2E. We've had other groups that kind of show up and do pop-up dinners. A lot of times the entrepreneurs are starting those businesses and moving on. Now, what we've really found out beyond groups, which was we thought were going to be our core, is that everything relies or relates to people. And in these pictures that I've been showing, everybody is smiling, they're having a good time, they're coming together. And whether it's for weddings, baby showers, I never knew you could have so many different decorations at baby showers. Weddings, we've had funerals, we've had retirements, we've had memorial gatherings, or people just getting together to have a good time. and come together to try to figure out how to make either their lives or their communities just a little bit better and just a little bit brighter. So as we look at these things, and people have always asked us, well, what's the numbers? What can you show? What we've kind of found out is after 3 years, 80% of our weeknights, our space is being used. 4 out of 5 nights on average. 95% of weekends, people are in our space. That means from 7 a.m. to midnight, oftentimes 2 different groups each of the 2 days. And of those events, 75% of them are community-based events where people are coming together to try to improve the community in some way. Now, what we looked at, we thought, well, there's some infrastructure, stuff like that. That's all we're providing. But what it allowed people to do is to have a very simple gathering place that they could project what they were wanting to do rather than it being about us. And what we've seen is we've had people do magic acts. Hopefully the fire marshal's not in the room here. It might be the zombie apocalypse, or even my favorite, which is just kind of hanging out on a Friday or Saturday night, maybe with an adult beverage, and having conversation of trying to save the world. Now, people ask us, well, what has that done for your firm? Well, I think we've become a little bit better known. We've gotten some clients out of it. Advertising or marketing speak, I now have to explain to people we really are boring. We really are lawyers and have day jobs. So if you can help carry that message forth, that'd be great. But when we look at it beyond that, really, the lesson that we have learned is that there are, you have to trust me on the math, 6,000 hours a year in which spaces, either community rooms or conference rooms or walkways, they're not being used. It's that time from 5 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock the next morning. And that ability for us to take one little small space, make it available to community for free, is what we've really learned is that, there's that quote that community doesn't need a space, but it doesn't hurt to have one. And so by giving this one little thing and taking and using this resource, we've been amazingly embraced by the community. And really our reward has been in being invited into the framework or the tapestry of our community and getting to meet people, whether it's kids having a good time running around, people jumping from joy and just being kind of goofy in the space. That has been our reward. But basically, I want to share today, too, from a temporal standpoint, I'm proud to announce, now you all have to keep it quiet, is that we've just found out that the Americans for the Arts, the National Arts Organization, is going to be honoring us as one of the 10 businesses in the United States for 2016. And we're going to be taking this and joining companies such as Microsoft, GE, and Hallmark, and local favorites Devon and Chesapeake, to explain at the Central Park Boathouse in October what placemaking is in Oklahoma City and how these little resources and places can be used better. So we hope everybody comes with us in October. Thank you.
Next, we're going to have 3 more lightning round presentations from 3 local leaders, and they're going to talk about development projects that are currently taking place in Oklahoma City. First, to talk to us about the Innovation District, please welcome from the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, Kurt Foreman. Kurt, you're next.
Welcome to the self-driving presentations here. See whether I can stay on track. Well, we're happy to be here today to talk about what should be a key engine for our community. While we aren't at a stage to share what facilities and buildings will look like, I can share how we are creating the cookbook or ingredient list for this district. And importantly, all the lessons learned can be part of a toolkit for use across the community and region. So let's talk about an innovation district. Ultimately, we're trying to structure a place, activate it, and then ramp up economic activity. It's an intentional effort to create a place with a level of choreography, if you will, that encourages and amplifies spontaneous opportunities. We want atoms to collide. In this slide, look at the blue lines. That's the key here. In the district, we already have a higher percentage of jobs needing a BA or above, 45% in this case. Also note under the next one that twice as many as usual need an associate degree or something like that. So that's one of the key reasons to have an innovation district. Our project, like many, is a joint effort. These are our investors in the current phase of the project, and we're very proud to be working with these 6 organizations and many others in the process so far. And our project sought out some of the world's foremost experts to help us. We are one of 2 initial communities that are part of what's called the BASS Initiative that brings together the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C. and the Projects for Public Spaces, or PPS, in New York City. Their complementary skill sets and experiences should allow us to increase our chances for success. So let's talk about the 3 phases, or the parts of that we're working on now. First is an audit and an assessment. This phase is finishing up now, and I'll share a little bit about it. Next, we're going to investigate key priority areas. Again, think of a cookbook preparation analogy I mentioned before. And finally, this fall, we'll pull together everything into a vision and strategy for going forward. This is the district that we're focusing on in the study. Generally, the study area runs from 13th Street south to either 4th or the railroad tracks. Lottie is the eastern boundary, a boundary common to many definitions of downtown. And then we include Automobile Alley to Robinson, which adds in assets that the district wants, plus it breaks across 235. This area has a long history of being where our community decided to put various assets. Much of it was healthcare assets over the last 100 years. The pictures here are from 1918 and from 1963. So we have a history of service in this area. So it makes sense to build on past successes and hard work of many Oklahomans, both alive and some that have passed away. So thanks to folks like Mr. Stanton Young, Mr. Dean McGee, and so many others for thinking strategically decades ago. Thinking strategically has to continue, but in some new ways. So yes, it's a small area. The little tiny blue dot in that area is our area, 843 acres. That's only 2.2% of the land area in Oklahoma City. It also happens to have only 0.2% of the population, but it already has nearly 5% of our area's employment, which makes it a key activity center. As a comparison, here are 4 other markets that we are looking at. Some have many more employees, some are a little bit larger, but we all start from somewhere. So it's not about differences, it's about where we start from. And by the way, Cortex is in St. Louis. The Innovation District will have a wide array of assets over time. Part of our audit looked at what you might call innovation assets. The red dots show where the current innovation assets are situated. Obviously, they're not in all parts of the district. Relative to social assets, there are fewer of them currently, and they're located in different spots than the red assets. Eventually, a vibrant innovation district will have mixed uses throughout and across the area, including further residential. We want more people to live here, too. So let's quickly cover some of the top line thoughts from the audit. Our study area currently is anchored by a medical district with a good bit of concentration and momentum. There is some commercial nearby, but not throughout. From a critical mass standpoint, the study area outperforms Oklahoma City in terms of density, but when compared to other peer areas that I showed you before, we lag a little bit. Again, it's where we start from where we are. It's not intended to be negative, but rather to note where we are today and where we need to go forward. Our consultants feel there's good opportunities for dense hubs and vibrant activity across the district. Our critical mass at this point involves life sciences, healthcare, and education, but ultimately leveraging new opportunities like GE Global Research will help us emerge even further. By doing this, we can go from being a medical-related district to being broader in what one of my friends calls tech agnostic. Being inclusive in every way, you can imagine, should also be a key piece of the cookbook we're developing. The audit noted a number of things. For example, there are marked disparities between the employees and residents who live in and around the study area. A successful innovation district will create all sorts of opportunities. The district will have many connections within as well as beyond its borders. They can and will impact many constituencies. As of now, the area's style of development, which comes from both when and how some of the facilities were constructed, means that there's a frequent lack of activity in the public realm. Many places have experienced that issue, and it can be corrected and dealt with, but we're going to have to be intentional. So where are we now? We have 3 focus areas for the next stage. First, we're going to dig deeper into the area's core strengths and look at what's our thing that we can leverage to make it even better. Second, we're going to consider how to enhance placemaking and inclusiveness efforts so that many things can be central to that district when we move ahead. And third, we'll need to identify what kind of governance or structure will help us. So if you'd like to learn more, I've only been able to touch on the surface, but go to okcinnovation.com. We have the full report from the audit, and we also have a way to sign up for our newsletter and other things. So we would love to have you keep track of us, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Kurt. Great job. Next, we're going to hear about streetcars. Here to make our presentation is a colleague of mine who serves on the Citizens Advisory Board for MAPS 3 and chairs the Modern Streetcar Subcommittee from Harding and Shelton, Nathaniel Harding. Nathaniel?
Thank you, Tom. As the MAPS 3 Modern Streetcar project advances, I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you what the experience will be like. I'll talk about what it'll look like, how it'll be to ride it, and where it'll operate and when it'll be operational. The streetcar will be transformational, changing the way we connect to our city and further spurring development. Streetcars travel along with the traffic on embedded rails. The Oklahoma City streetcar will be an integral part of downtown, and it'll be used by commuters, downtown professionals, local and out-of-town visitors, and others throughout the weekdays and weekends. The multiple entrances, low floors, and onboard bicycle racks mean you can roll your bikes, strollers, or wheelchairs easily on board. The sleek design, frequent service, and articulated body will help you get around town quickly while leaving your car at home or in a parking garage. We may even find that future developments can focus more on places and less on new parking garages. Each streetcar vehicle is 66 feet long and 8 feet wide, making it somewhat narrower and longer than a typical bus. The articulation refers to the 2 parts in the middle that can bend around corners. Each can hold over 130 passengers. Some capacity is for sitting, while most is for standing, as these will be quick trips with a rapid on and off access. Vehicles will be Wi-Fi enabled. There will be an app to show you where the stops and streetcars are, when the next one will arrive, and where you can buy your ticket or reload your rider account. You may also be able to see what businesses, venues, or events are ahead of you. As much as anything, the streetcar is a social amenity, a community tool to connect people and places. Each clearly marked covered stop will have a ticket kiosk and have imagery of the local district. You'll also see real-time streetcar signs showing arrival information. Each district will be abuzz with many types of riders. 6 vehicles are already on order and are being built by Brookville, who is working other streetcar projects to great acclaim. We recently added a red line to serve as a Bricktown loop, providing direct access between the central business district and Bricktown. And of course, everybody wants to know the colors. That will be revealed this summer. The route connects all the districts of the downtown area, from Midtown through Auto Alley, CBD, Court Shore, Bricktown, and others. Each of these districts has their own unique character with a mix of uses, whether that be for work, shopping, events, or our third place, where people go to be around other people. The main line, blue line, is 4.6 miles and will have 5 vehicles running through all these locations, creating a 10-minute headway of frequency. The recently added red line will have 1 additional vehicle, creating a 7-minute headway. Riders will conveniently find stops every 2 to 3 blocks. When you take a closer look at the route, you'll notice how many different ride options there really are. You can also see the routes for possible future extensions. The streetcar will go by the Downtown Transit Center, which is critical to tie into the bus system. Successful transit systems have multiple modes that interconnect well. The streetcar will also interface with Santa Fe Station for future connections to other transit options. As you can see with the red line, It will be a quick and easy ride for downtown workers to hop on a streetcar and head anywhere. The updated route now meets up with a new boulevard at the MAPS 3 Park and Convention Center. There are a number of ways the streetcar will be used. You might catch a streetcar from your house to go to a Thunder game, or head to Midtown for a lunch meeting without getting your car out of the parking garage, or maybe Blue Garden after work. And I'm sure you know how important it is to connect all of the Bricktown hotels and amenities to the Convention Center and Chesapeake Arena. It's been encouraging to see all the new developments occurring around the streetcar route. Streetcars work best in higher density mixed-use areas. There have been hundreds of new units and hotel rooms brought online, along with dozens of new construction projects, renovations, and new businesses. Clearly, our streetcar system covers a lot of ground. In fact, it's one of the larger new systems to be built in the last 15 years. Other cities, as you can see, have already expanded theirs. Streetcars are opening to great acclaim, with Dallas' system opening last year and Kansas City's last week. The Oklahoma City streetcar will also feature a wireless technology that will allow it to travel off-wire for up to several blocks, totaling about up to 1/3 of the total route. Our consulting engineers at Jacobs have designed minimum and maximum wireless scenarios. This off-wire capacity will only increase as onboard batteries improve. The maintenance facility will house these vehicles along with spare parts and support personnel. It'll be located next to Union Station and will even feature stones used from the same quarry used to build Union Station. The line for this facility can be the beginning of an eventual extension to Capitol Hill. I mentioned the Santa Fe station before, on Gaylord between Reno and Sheridan. As part of MAPS 3, it'll be renovated to become a fully functional intermodal transportation hub. It is envisioned to also accommodate commuter rail service, making this a top-tier transit system. As part of the Santa Fe renovation, there will be a pedestrian tunnel through the rail viaduct, providing better pedestrian access to Bricktown. You'll also see a grand staircase and other improvements. This renovation is underway now and is set for completion this winter. Maintenance and mainline construction will start soon and continue through 2017. Property and business owners will be aware of construction long before it happens, with average construction lasting 2 to 3 weeks per block. The vehicles are on order now and will begin delivery later next year. After a period of testing, the system will be ready for operations. Embark will operate the system, ensuring it will integrate seamlessly with the bus system. They are already hard at work with branding, developing the best technologies for the user experience, and identifying an operations and maintenance provider. All of this so that 2 years from today, you'll be able to take your first streetcar ride. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nathaniel. That's wonderfully well reported, and it is something to look forward to. We really appreciate all the work you're doing on a volunteer basis on that. Well, the final presenter in our lightning round now is going to give us an update on the 21C Museum Hotel. From Hall Capital, please welcome my good friend Clay Moss. Clay?
Thank you all for having me. I'm not an accomplished public speaker, and it is Friday the 13th, so what could possibly go wrong? I am going to talk about 21C Museum Hotel today, but I also want to talk about the surrounding development and the entire west end of downtown. And a part of that is history, and history is really, really important in this site. Hall Capital is run by 3 principals today, Fred, Boots, and Kirk Hall. Many of you will know them, have seen them in town, and they're stalwarts in the community. But their grandfather really started it all. Fred Jones, who's centered here, pictured with these gentlemen you probably recognize, came to Oklahoma City on a train from Chattanooga, Tennessee, not a dollar to his name, happened to stop in Oklahoma City, saw a Ford Motor Company plant being built, went and got a job as a timekeeper on an assembly line. Timekeeper on an assembly line. This is when it was originally started to be built, 1915. You can see here the actual column footings. When you tour it, when we tour 21C when it opens, these columns are still there today. It's amazing to think that this building was built in about 8 months. And here it was, opening day 1916, 4 stories. They would actually bring in the Model A's on a train from Dearborn, Michigan, start assembling them on the 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, and the showroom, excuse me, is on the 1st floor you see here today. So they would actually assemble and sell the cars. Here it is today, painstaking historic preservation project, and it just happens to be the perfect target for 21C as they target transitional areas in historic buildings. This building will be home to not only 21C, but also ADG, who is a current tenant. Great view of where we are today. You'll see here in a second of all the sites that we have. But really, this is building on the momentum of kind of the west shift, if you will, starting with Devon Tower and certainly everything that's happening Chip Fudge and Film Row and DC on Film Row with their event space. Everything you see in this slide is stuff that Fred Jones actually bought a long time ago. So he assembled it in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So there's 3 projects all working together in this one particular place on the west end of downtown. The yellow is a mixed-use development I'll talk about in just a moment. The red and the purple. Why is it purple? Purple Penguin was announced this week. It's a signature feature of all 21Cs. But 21C, it says here museum, hotel, restaurant, and it's so true. The restaurant will be a great, great restaurant. And there's art, free art, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So it's just a really unique project. This is a snippet of what a hotel room looks like. Obviously not a traditional hotel room, but a couple of features when we talk about art. It's even the shimmery wall covering that's connecting the glass and the sheetrock you see here. And even the coffee table, which looks like a normal coffee table, but to raise and lower it, you just spin it. Art is architecture. Core drilled through all 4 floors of the building to create a light well. This light well actually has rooms that look into the light well. The architect that thought of this during this project became the Yale Dean of Architecture. Very prestigious architecture school, so I give all the credit to her. The restaurant, Mary Eddy's. Why is it named Mary Eddy's? Fred Jones's wife was named Mary Eddy. Wonderful of 21C, a tilt to the history of the building. Picture the kitchen and also the chef from Cincinnati, bringing in new jobs from Oklahoma City. This is a guy who wanted a shot at an executive chef role and got it. Second project, Jones Assembly. These 3 guys pictured here have been dreaming about this for a long time. Fred, the music lover, Graham, the local musician, Brian, the restaurateur, combine that into a gathering place for food, spirits, and music. Like Scott spoke earlier about the music scene, this is another additive thing. There's 2 warehouses that Fred Jones owned at one time. We didn't want to tear down, and we couldn't really figure out what we wanted to do. And so this is the creation of it. It's an indoor-outdoor. You can see the building, the 2-story building. We've taken the floor out of it, so very high ceilings. The outdoor space, as you can see in the top rendering picture, is wide open, sheltered. But it's not just bar food. We brought in Brittany Sanger, Oklahoma City native, who was Parish trained, been recently in Boston, and we were able to recruit her back to Oklahoma City. Another amazing recruiting story of bringing jobs back here, but people who could work elsewhere. And lastly, the project that really kind of ties it all together, it's an aptly named The Residences because we don't have a name yet, but our partners listed here. The top picture is before and the bottom picture is after. This is unique in that we're gonna create a lot of different things, again, a before and after. But these are going to be, 350 plus apartments, restaurants, live work unit, coffee shop, something very different. But also all of these groups are going to be working together to create a real place on the west end of downtown. Another view, again, talk about synergy. We centered our pool deck that's actually going to overlook 21C and the Jones Assembly. Again, just a unique opportunity, 3 different projects, 3 different partners, and they're all talking to each other. It makes a big difference. The Hall of Capital is pleased to be a part of all 3 of these. Here are our partners. I'm standing up here today giving you a quick presentation. If you really want more information, project updates, opening dates, which I'm not comfortable giving yet, all these folks on this page can fill you in as well. Lastly, this is a public-private partnership. So everyone in this room, thank you for helping us get these projects done. My favorite quote, and it drives Hall Capital today by Fred Jones, is keep in mind all of our work is for the future. Let us spare not, nor look back, but go forward unlimited with our powers. I think that speaks truly of Oklahoma City today, and it would make those gentlemen proud. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Clay. Let me fast forward here to the correct page. I remember must have been 3 or 4 years ago, and I was watching the Today Show, which I sometimes do, and they were going to show the top hotels in the United States. And so that kind of catches my eye, thinking maybe I've seen some of them, maybe I've even stayed in some of them. And they were going down the list, and they get to number 1, and you're thinking, well, it's going to be in one of the meccas of the United States. It's going to be in New York, or it's going to be in Los Angeles. And it was in one of the meccas of the United States. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking the number 1 hotel in the United States is in Louisville, Kentucky. That surprised me. And then they said it was something called the 21C. And I thought to myself, that is so unique, and they described it as an art museum and hotel and combined. And fortunately, about 3 years ago, I had a chance to visit a 21C when it was just a spark of an idea amongst the Hall family. And so as we get closer and closer to the opening of the 21C, I think it's again sort of coincidental but very appropriate that our next speaker is the mayor of Louisville, who knows all about the 21C and how it has helped his city progress. I do want to bring up that our next speaker is sponsored by the Midtown Renaissance, and we are grateful for their direction and help in this project. But Greg Fischer is a mayor that has really turned heads around cities around the country who are looking at Louisville and all the exciting things he is taking on. Louisville is a city of 760,000. They have combined their city and their county into one county city government. They did that back in 2003. So this is a strong mayor form of government. He works with a 26-member Metro Council. Some of the city's leading corporate citizens include UPS, Ford, and several companies who headquarter in Louisville, including Humana, Papa John's, Yum Brands, which of course includes KFC, and the bourbon maker Brown-Forman. Mayor Fischer was elected in 2010 after spending 30 years as a successful businessman and entrepreneur. He has engineered a tremendous renaissance in Louisville and earned a reputation of one of America's most innovative and forward-thinking mayors. And to illustrate all that is happening in Louisville, his economic development team sent us a very short video that highlights some of the city's accomplishments during Mayor Fischer's tenure. Let's take a look.
Welcome to Louisville, a place where we love to live, work, create, and innovate.
It's a little bit southern, it's a little bit Midwestern.
Louisville's a great place. I'm born and raised in Louisville. I ended up leaving the city and coming back.
I am happiest when I land back in the Louisville airport. No other place feels like home.
I've got so many business colleagues that transferred here to Louisville from the bigger cities, and they've never left. They said they'll never leave.
I'm never leaving Louisville. Take a crowbar to get me out of here.
Folks love being here. Once you're here, you never want to leave.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a city across the nation right now that is doing as much progressively with parks, greenways, trail development as Louisville, Kentucky.
There's a wonderful entrepreneurial spirit. Louisville is a place to
live, work, create, and innovate.
It's centered throughout the U.S., so it makes transportation very easy.
Culturally, you're sitting in a world-class city that's punching at the same levels as cities 10 times its size.
Urbanism. Nothing like it anywhere else in the world.
Louisville's got an incredible food scene, and it just keeps getting better every year.
You can't spell Louisville without love, right?
Here you can have everything in 20 minutes. Best restaurants in the country, good art scene, good sports scene, and good people.
Louisville has a lot to offer, not just the manufacturing industry, but it's a great place to raise a family.
Still never makes me stop smiling that, you know, you don't really know what Louisville's about until you've really been here.
Louisville is much more than Derby and basketball, but there's so many other things, and I love to just go out there and just talk about Kentucky to people. Good schools, great parks, great arts, good medium-sized city like Louisville is where your whole family can come alive and reach their potential.
My roots go down.
Yeah!
You know, there are a lot of good mayors and a lot of cities that are progressing and it seem like they're on new trajectories. They're doing, you know, this or that. I think like Oklahoma City, Louisville is doing it all. And I hope you'll enjoy meeting my good friend and one of America's top mayors, Greg Fischer. Greg?
All right, well, thank you, Mayor, so much. It's an honor to be here. You know, Louisville and Oklahoma City have a lot in common as I learn more about your city, and I want to thank Mayor Cornett as well. I can tell you, we spent a lot of time together as mayors around the different cities in the country, and he is an unrelenting ambassador for Oklahoma City. I can like almost give the story of Oklahoma City. I've heard it so many times. And you know, he also is a former Governing Magazine Public Official of the Year, which a few mayors have been able to get that honor. He is almost, I scratched it out, I almost call him an obnoxious Thunder fan. Let's just call him an over-the-top Thunder fan. But most importantly for you all, and I don't know how well this is known, starting in June, Mick is going to be the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which is a really tough, highly esteemed position to do. Good job. So I want to turn the table a little bit. I bought a gift for you, Mayor, if you'd come up and get it, please. The mayor's a big baseball fan. And if y'all didn't know, the world's best baseball bats are made in Louisville. So this is your customized Louisville Slugger here, Mick, so you can take care of business when you need to here.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, well, I'm happy to bring greetings from my great city of Louisville. We had a little horse race there last Saturday, on the first Saturday in May. And I gotta say, I'm tired. We're the only city that has a 2-week festival for a 2-minute horse race. You know, people bop in for Derby weekend, oh, this is tough. And I was like, I'm on day 13 right now. So I'm on about day 20 for the Kentucky Derby Festival, but it's fantastic. We begin the festival with the largest fireworks show in North America. It's called Thunder Over Louisville. And this is a story I hear a lot, but if I had as much success as Mayor Cornett has had with the NBA, Thunder Over Louisville might look like this. But congrats on the big win last night. Y'all have a fantastic team, and I think had a real shot at winning the whole thing this year. So let's go it. Let's thunder up, right? Well, the Kentucky Derby is an amazing thing for us. We had about 175,000 people on Saturday at the race. The day before, on Friday, there's 125,000 people, and it has about $225 million economic impact on our city. And so that's why really no matter what horse I bet on, at the end of the day, I always feel like a winner. Now I get asked this question a lot. How do you pronounce the name of our city? Louisville, okay? We were founded in 1780 on the Ohio River. That's a big river we have. And our citizens wanted to thank King Louis XVI because at the time our country was fighting the British and the French were sending money to us to defeat the British, so we named our city after him. So it's not Louisville or Louisville, it's Louisville. So it has 3 syllables. And so I want to teach y'all how to say the name of our city. So imagine you had marbles in your mouth first. And then you had 2 bourbons as well, okay? So it's a lot easier. So it's Louisville. All right, so say after me. Louisville. All right, now that was slow. Now we'll speed it up. Ready? Louisville. Louisville. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, so keep that up, and next year you'll be able to predict the favorite or the winner of the Kentucky Derby as well. All right, Louisville. All right, now let me talk a little bit about the challenges and opportunities we face as a city. We've heard some great speeches earlier today. Jennifer's talk on Google X really talks about the power of transformation, and you guys are getting it done with your MAPS projects as well. But Google X is a leader amongst a growing number of companies who are really turning what 20 years ago we thought would have been science fiction into today's reality. And we know, and you all are demonstrating this here in OKC, that as city leaders, planners, and developers, we have to do more than kind of understand what's going on in the world. We've got to embrace it. And there's a quote that has been attributed to various people, one of whom is the great Kentuckian Abraham Lincoln, who said, "The best way to predict your future is to create it." And it's easy to see that all you guys are doing here with all of your MAPS projects and what we're doing in Louisville, we've been creating our future. And I want to comment on your all's MAPS projects. To me, as a mayor and a business person, entrepreneur, these are just not projects for your city. It's an attitude and a culture that you all have developed in your city. When you can conceive of taking a dried up river, creek, ditch, whatever it was, and turning it into a world-class venue, I mean, that's impressive. And what you're doing in the process, I was here in Oklahoma City about 3 years ago, so I've seen some before and after. But each time when I'm talking to people on the street, I say, do you know anything about these MAPS projects? It is amazing what you all have done as a city in terms of enculturalizing what MAPS is and the involvement of the people in your city, in the future of your city. And I don't want you to take that for granted. You might know that's not usual. What you guys are doing here in Oklahoma City with MAPS is kind of a unique story throughout America. And it is very impressive for me to come back, and it's hard for another mayor to say this about another city, by the way, to come back and just see how you're transforming your city, and you're transforming your people's attitudes at the same time to be citizens. And we've lost a degree of citizenship in our country right now. And a citizen to me is somebody that takes care of themselves and their family, takes care of their employer, so there's a good two-way value-add relationship. But thirdly, does something for their community in which they expect nothing in return except to live in a great city and be an American. And what you guys are doing with the way that you're approaching MAPS, the citizen involvement, is extraordinary and truly a bright spot in our country right now. So I want to congratulate you on the tremendous work that you've been doing here. Now let's all go back. I want to talk a little bit about my city right now. When I took office in January of 2011, we were still under the cloud of the Great Recession at that time. Unemployment in our city was about 10%, a little bit over than that. I inherited a massive budget deficit. We had little to no job growth, and then obviously lots of anxiety about the future if we can all think back to the Great Recession. As Mick said, I'm an entrepreneur. I spent my career in business. This is my first job as an elected official. And what I certainly understood is that government by itself never has all of the answers. But what government can do is run a tight ship and ask the right questions and bring the right people together to find the best answers for our problems today and certainly for our future problems as well. So one of the first questions that we posed to ourselves was, and Abraham Lincoln might have said this, was how do we help create the future that our citizens demand and deserve? And that question, of course, has multiple answers, but I'm going to focus on one critical aspect that touches every area of life in our city. And it's a practice that I've honed quite a bit in my business life, that you all are doing right now in Oklahoma City, and that's a belief in the transformative power of innovation. So the question is, how do you enculturalize innovation? And it's obvious that innovation is really critical to the future of any city. And we saw that especially in the first days in office when we faced these severe budget challenges. So we immediately kind of went about and organized the jobs of city government, much like I'd done in my private sector as well. And people are always saying, oh, these government officials aren't any good. What I found is government officials, at least in Louisville, had not been invested in. They'd been trained in functional excellence, but not kind of human potential. And that's one of the first things that we started doing was massive training with our folks. And then we organized the job around three principles: daily work, continuous improvement work, and innovation work. And we've got about 7,000 employees in city government. And then I've charged every department with being the best in the world at what they do. And why not? Someone's got to be the best, so why not each one of us as individuals and each one of our departments, certainly. And we're the hometown of Muhammad Ali, so constant improvement and innovation have made it possible for us as a city like you guys to punch above our weight compared to other cities in the country. So we trained our workforce around business improvement tools like Lean, Six Sigma, project management, data analytics, and we're putting that to work in city government just like businesses in the private sector have done for a long time. We created something called the Louis Stat Performance Improvement Method, where we set specific measurable goals around being best in the world at what we do and post those goals online for anybody to see. So kind of open government. And this works both ways because, you know, the media loves to be snarky and find things that we're not doing right in here and come at us. But I say, that's fine. It is what it is. And everybody knows you're not perfect. If you act like you're perfect, that's a facade. So we embrace what we call a weakness orientation. As a citizen, I'm more interested in the 5% when things go wrong than the 95% when they go right. So I want them to know that we're working on that 5% to try to get to perfection as close as we can. So we're a national model for this. We've certainly earned national recognition for this effort, and we're hosting the Summit on Government Performance and Innovation on June 15th and 16th with Governing Magazine in our city. So if you're really into this, we'd love to see you there. You could even stay at the flagship 21C Museum Hotel in Main Street in Louisville. 21C is headquartered in Louisville. Right now we've got about 20 hotels either under construction or on planning in Louisville. So like you all, we're going through a tremendous renaissance as well. And you're going to love 21C. Great ownership group, super creative what they do. When you go and see the new 21C, you're going to say, this is a creative bunch here. In terms of contemporary art, they are edgy. Okay, so if you want an edgy contemporary art scene, you are about ready to get it. And then they change their collection frequently as well, so you're not going to have a stale hotel here. So congratulations on getting a 21C. Everybody wants one of those. So promoting innovative businesses like 21C and hosting events like the summit I just referred to are certainly a small part, but they're an important part of the culture, or the culture of creating innovation in your city. But most importantly, and I'm talking now as city government, if you want to consistently innovate, you have to dedicate resources to personnel that are just responsible for innovating in your city and use those organizing principles around your organization. So I'd ask you, this is what I did as a business person, so for your private businesses, are you dedicating innovation resources? If you don't, it is so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day that the world can pass you by. Your MAPS projects are a great civic example of dedicating resources to innovation. So a critical step for us along the way was joining a mutual learning cohort of 4 other cities 4 years ago that was funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies to build our innovation capacity. Michael Bloomberg was looking for 5 cities in the country where we could experiment to say, can you consistently innovate within city government? So we then established a dedicated innovation team, we call them I-teams, that are fully focused on innovation projects. We created the country's first Office for Civic Innovation 5 years ago, and then also created something called our Office for Performance and Improvement and Innovation. So I'm kind of into this stuff and did this as part of my life in the private sector and have brought it to city government as well. So what these teams do together is work to create alignment amongst our departments within city government. We have some 24+ departments, and then use data and analytics to help us track performance, align our projects, our daily work with our strategic plan, and build tactical goals for the city around areas like public health, education, our built environment, many of the things we're talking about here today. And the alignment and harmony have made a real difference. Because I've learned something about bureaucracy. You know, people usually complain about bureaucrats. bureaucrats will keep doing kind of the same thing over and over again. That's what bureaucracy is. But they don't lean to change because that's not the nature of it. But what I have found is that when you lean out a process, when you make it as innovative as possible and insert that process into government, the bureaucracy is happy to follow that as well. So it's a good thing. If you look at it in a positive way, bureaucrats protect us from bad elected officials. And there are bad elected officials out there. So they've been very helpful in our innovation approach. Now, we've also used our innovation approach with external challenges. So let me give you a couple examples for that. The two biggest cities in Kentucky are Louisville and Lexington, and have traditionally been involved in a fairly counterproductive rivalry. And it's partly based on sports. University of Louisville versus University of Kentucky, it's our version of Bedlam. But in the 21st century, we've got to think bigger than this. We have to think globally and marshal our best resources to compete. Lexington is about 40% the size of Louisville, maybe about 300,000 people in the city itself, but their mayor is another business guy like me, and we knew each other before we were elected. So we got together at the beginning of our terms in office and discarded this old non-productive rivalry approach and mentality between the two cities. Because let's face it, right now we are in a global competition. Whether you're Oklahoma City or Louisville, we're competing against Singapore, we're competing against Hong Kong, and cities within the United States as well. So for two cities in one state that's a smaller state, our population's about 4.5 million, not too different from Oklahoma, to be competing against each other, that's just stupid. So we put that to the side and created a regional economic development plan that has a footprint of about 2.5 million people. So now when global economic development decisions are being made, they're looking at our region, the Bluegrass Economic Advancement region, as opposed to just Louisville or Lexington. So it's really been a good thing where rising tide has lifted all boats. Our partnership's initial focus was advanced manufacturing. We have about 100,000 jobs between the two cities in this area in sectors like automotive, appliance, translation software, bourbon. And by the way, a quirky fact that you're seeing here, we are the world's leading producers of disco balls as well. And I can tell you that's not a big market, but people like to look at disco balls. Now, this partnership with Lexington includes 22 counties between us. Louisville and Lexington are about 70 miles apart, and it's been incredibly successful for us. 5 straight years of record-breaking export growth, with 2015 exports totaling more than $28 billion a year. We also bring innovation to bear on other economic and social challenges. Like the rest of the country, I assume it's a problem here, we just cannot find enough software coders. So we've got thousands of good jobs that we struggle to fill no matter how quickly we produce more software coders. So we created something called Code Louisville. Code Louisville is a free 12-week training session so that citizens of all ages can learn about software coding. About 1,000 people have been through it so far. And then Code Louisville has been recognized as a national best practice as part of the White House's Tech Hire initiative. As part of Code Louisville, we conducted a special coding class training session for low-income teens at the Beecher Terrace housing complex. You're seeing a picture of them right here. So this initiative addresses 2 challenges at once, and I would encourage y'all when you're thinking about your projects, how many different areas or challenges can you address in your city through one initiative? Through this particular one, obviously, we're filling tech job vacancies, but we're also addressing the persistently high rates of unemployment amongst young African-American males that we see in cities around our country. Beecher Terrace is where we did this, so we call this project Coding at the Beach. And this group of young entrepreneurs did something that really impressed us and showed us we were on the right track. So here's another short video that tells their story.
We are taking Code Louisville to a new level. They started their own web business and could be the youngest entrepreneurs in town.
Eye contact, and he's given me a firm handshake. Justin, it's my pleasure to meet you.
Words of wisdom from a man who knows a lot about the world of business.
Start off by saying, I only need 2 minutes, and I'll explain my product, and then I'll get out. But if you can get in that door, your odds go up 1,000%.
Louisville Mayor Greg Fischer's father, George Fischer, shares business advice with the city's newest entrepreneurs, local teens from the Code Louisville program, developed in the Beecher Terrace area, one of the city's most notorious housing projects. They took what they learned during the school year and started Beach Technologies. The company provides small businesses with websites at an affordable cost. The teens, all minorities, hoping to pave the way for students who look like them. Dyrese Breckenridge, a recent high school graduate, is in charge of sales. She says her perseverance and can-do attitude will be an asset to the team.
My son, he's been an inspiration to me to continue to go forward on with my life. I mean, I am going to EKU and I might be leaving him for a few months, but he knows that I'm actually doing something with my life.
President Obama met with the students in April, a meeting that also inspired the new business. A company that grew right out of Beecher Terrace, the students say they hope others can better see the good in the neighborhood.
We're making a positive organization out of what people see as the bad part of town.
The young entrepreneurs work 30 hours a week, and along with the experience, they say the extra cash doesn't hurt either. Reporting in downtown Louisville, Samantha Chapman, WDRB News.
So this summer, we're scaling the program even further. We created a program called Summer Works 5 years ago when I started in office to make sure that kids have jobs in the summer. And we're focusing on young people that don't have a mom or dad or aunt or uncle can call a friend and say, hey, Johnny needs a job. So we'll have 2,750 jobs this summer. It's been a great private-public partnership to make sure kids like this get a summer job experience, a mentoring experience, so that they see there's a path to a hopeful future, a future where they're connected in it as well. So we'll be scaling this effort this summer. And I think what this story tells us was, and this was a little surprising, because Beecher Terrace, I'm sure you guys have got your own version of Beecher Terrace in Oklahoma City. People see it as a tough area. There's more violence that takes place there than what I would like to see. But there's great kids everywhere. They just need a shot. And the job of all of us as civic leaders is to give these folks a shot. We established... Thank you. Related to this, we established an office called the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods in 2012 in our city. We had a triple homicide take place in the month before that, and it really shocked our city. Our homicide rate in Louisville is about the same as Oklahoma City's, and each time, which is average for the country, it's bad to say a homicide is average, but average in terms of rate per 100,000 citizens. And our goal, obviously, is to eliminate homicides. Homicides are on the rise all over the country right now, in cities all over our country, and we're seeing that in Louisville, we're seeing that in Oklahoma City as well. So we established our Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods. Its job is to work with community partners to reduce the numbers, not only of homicides, but suicides and drug overdoses in our city. So when you think about what the responsibility is for a city, one of them is to make sure people live long and healthy lives. So when someone is struck down by a bullet or takes their own life or by heroin or whatever it might be, that's a real collective loss to our city. So that's what the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods works on. We've raised about $10 million in private and federal grants to support our efforts. I want to share one of the promising programs. It's a program called Pivot to Peace. And this initiative intervenes with hospital patients who are receiving treatment for either a gunshot wound or a knife wound or other violent crime injuries, and who come from some of our highest crime zip codes. A social worker intervenes right at that time and connects with them in the hospital in an effort to prevent retribution crimes and provide options to guide these citizens in our city toward a bright and better future. We're 100% so far when we intervene with these folks. The toughest challenge in reducing violent crime is contacting the folks who are involved or around the criminal activity. All the good kids show up. It's the kids that you want that are right in the middle of this game, and it's a tough, violent game. So Pivot to Peace is one of our solutions to reduce homicides, as I said, a problem that every American city is seeing right now. And there's one more, Louisville innovation I'd like to share with you. Sometimes you know you're doing something innovative by the looks that folks give you when you start talking about it. And that's what happened when I told people in my 2011 inaugural address that one of my top goals as mayor for the city was to make our city an even more compassionate city. Some people thought that was odd or inappropriate. They told me that I would look weak if I talked about something like compassion, but I said I totally disagree. It is easy to be a cynic on the couch and be skeptical about the future and about how our communities come together, and it's much more difficult to be compassionate and try to lift everyone up. I define compassion as respect for each and every one of our citizens so that their human potential is flourishing and thriving, shining like the sun. And our citizens have responded in a tremendous way and built that bond of citizenship that I feel in your city as well. And I really think it's important for leaders in our country to unite our citizens around human values like kindness, hospitality, and compassion. We're living in a day, as we all know, where there's all types of divisive rhetoric that's taking place. And I'd ask you in your countries, in your companies, if you talked in your companies like we hear some political leaders talking in our country right now, how long would you stay in business? You'd be done. So what's our responsibility for all of those that have a podium, whether it's as an elected official or civic leaders like yourself, to unite people around these core values that we all were born with? To bring that to life, we established what we call the Mayor's Give a Day Week of Service, and that's an annual celebration of compassion in our city where citizens from all parts of our city come together and do massive volunteer projects like building beds for kids that are transitioning out of homeless shelters, or doing painting or landscape work for a Boys and Girls Club. Last month, we broke our own world record for compassion with about 175,000 volunteers and acts of compassion in 1 week in our city. So cultivating compassion as a city value is also a way of what I call building social muscle. And we've all seen what can happen in cities like Ferguson or Baltimore when a city does not have social muscle. We saw our own social muscles tested in our city last year. So we have about 5 mosques in Louisville. We're a strong interfaith global city. Someone painted some hateful graffiti on the walls of one of our local mosques. The people who attend the mosque are outstanding citizens. They're tremendous citizens. They give generously of their time and resources to numerous local causes. So this really felt like a punch in the gut to the entire city. We held a press conference the next morning and invited the community to come out and paint away the hate the next afternoon. And we didn't know what the response would be, but the final video shows what happened.
As a Muslim woman here in our city, I was heartbroken on Friday night when I came here and Barbara called me and we saw what had happened at this holy mosque.
I just don't understand why it was done. There's a point to get across that this wasn't the way to do it.
In these situations, we realize we're more alike than we are different.
Muhammad commends the good people of his hometown of Louisville who have come together with compassion and love in their hearts to repair the damage done to this beautiful place of worship.
We got a lot more people here than we have building to paint. We want to line up here in 4 rows from here out. We'd like for the kids to come up first so that you can be part of this history making as well, because this is yours.
We really felt really strong about it that we wanted to do something about it. We brought some solvents and things to help clean up the graffiti. It was a really good thing. I mean, just to come out and see everybody and to be a part of something bigger and this interfaith community is really nice.
Not everyone is a part of the same religion, and just the fact that everyone's taking the time to come out today and support each other shows that there really aren't that many differences between people.
It's a really cool feeling to see how many people actually come together to be a part of this whole thing, and how inviting everyone is and how welcoming everyone is.
I think that the community coming together is evidence that hate can never win, that love will always win. God is love and God will always win. And I am so thankful to live in this community.
This should be beginning of love, friendship, brotherhood, and a fraternity among us, people of different faiths. So please, please continue this journey till the last day of our life.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you can imagine, I was never prouder of our city than I was on that day. And I call the results of that work social innovation. And I want to say too, compassion is good for business. I was talking not long ago to the CEO of a company named ComputerShare. We were in a big battle with the rest of the country on where they were going to be locating their North American operations. Fortunately, we won. There'll be over 1,000 jobs when it's all said and done. And I asked him, I said, in the end, why did you choose our city? And he looked at me straight in the eye and he said, Mayor, I loved your focus on compassion. I was like, right on, man. Thank you very much. Now I've got compassion is good for business story as well. So it's great. Now, since I first came into office, if people are saying, is any of this stuff work or is this just some left-wing liberal up here? I'm a business guy. We've cut our unemployment rate in half. We're about 4.8% right now. We created 2,500 new companies and over 50,000 jobs in the last 5 years. And we were the fourth fastest city in the country to recover from the recession. So if you're not creating opportunity through jobs, then all this is just a social experiment. You've got to get those kind of results. And it's important, too, as I transition, that every city showcases its authenticity. You all are doing this here. You don't want somebody to come to your city and say, well, that felt like anywhere USA. What's unique about that spot? We're developing a year-round tourism experience around one of our areas of authenticity. We welcome about 16 million visitors a year to Louisville. Part of that is fueled by the exploding popularity of what I referred to earlier, and that is bourbon and bourbon tourism. We call that bourbonism. So what Napa is to wine tourism, we have become that for bourbon tourism. Because Kentucky produces 95% of the world's bourbon. The other 5% is counterfeit. So stay away from that. So almost 1 million people journeyed on the Bourbon Trail last year. Come and check it out. It's a great experience. One of the challenges that Oklahoma City and Louisville face as medium-sized cities, along with the other medium-sized cities in the country, is airlift. You all need more direct flights to the coast, to the big cities. We do too. So you get that through population growth, or you get it through induced demand. So like when you think of Orlando, why are all the flights there? It's not the size of Orlando, right? They're going to Disney World. So as we grow bourbonism to 2-3 million visitors a year, that's one of our strategies for increasing airlift, just like perhaps you will do with your boathouse experience down here on the river. So we all try to build momentum in our city. We certainly have it, and we're working to increase it. So I want to close with one last example of innovation and how we use our citizens to help gather data around a big public health challenge. We call these folks citizen scientists. We've created some amazing improvements in our city to help folks who suffer from asthma. Unfortunately, we've got one of the higher asthma rates in the nation due to our location in the Ohio River Valley where air can become stagnant, and so we had to do something to help there. We worked with a company called Propeller Health and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation to create Air Louisville. So this program uses smart GPS-connected inhalers to help collect data on when and where people are using their inhalers. And we combine that data with the EPA to create a map that you're seeing right here. So these are heat spots on the map that would tell us where the largest incidences of inhaler use are taking place. So you press your inhaler, sign goes up to the web, aggregate the data, and produces this map. So this tells us when and where the usage is greatest so we can better identify the connection between air quality, weather condition, asthma flare-ups, and then share this knowledge with our citizens, mitigate those areas, and then improve the health outcomes for our citizens as well. So it's a great example of kind of identifying a problem, engaging your citizens, and you better believe all the 1,000 citizens that are part of this, they've become better citizens because they say, I am part of the citizenry of this, and I'm helping make our city a better place. So I love my city, just as you all love yours, and certainly that's why you're here. And this work we're doing to help our citizens and our cities is something special, I think. Acts of citizenship, and the kind of work that a great Louisvillian once described as the work of the heart. I mentioned Muhammad Ali earlier. He grew up on this humble home on Grand Avenue that you can visit. And today, of course, his legacy as both a champion athlete and global humanitarian inspires me and millions all over the world. And I find energy in his words, and for people that love their city, like you all here today, you will too. This quote is from his book, The Soul of a Butterfly, Reflections on Life's Journey, and I'll close with this. All through my life, I have been tested. My will has been tested. My courage has been tested. My soul has grown over the years, and as long as I am alive, I will continue to try to understand more because the work of the heart is never done. Thank you.
All right, let's hear it for Greg Fischer. Have a seat over there. All right, it's now time for our super panel roundtable discussion, and we have questions, opportunities for you. So if you have the card on your table and you have a question, but we're going to invite Jennifer Haroon from Google X back up here, and I'm going to get together with the two of them, and we'll just see where the conversation takes us. All right, Jennifer, I want to start with you. You gave us a great explanation, I think, of the technology and the intricacy of which your engineers are having to work, but break it down for mayors and people who care about their cities. How is all this going to ultimately work? How are we going to, take a system that's been in place 100 years in a kind of a certain culture and just immediately dramatically change? What's the integration going to be like?
Sure. I think one of the important parts of our project is that we certainly don't have all the answers. And in fact, it would be quite arrogant of us to say, we've developed this technology, and now everywhere and everyone has to use it in this way. And so part of the reason we really started expanding our test locations and also having conversations like this was so that we could learn back from communities. And we could hear some cities tell us, for example, we have a great public transportation system, but we know that that last mile is tough for some people. So we'd love one day to use self-driving vehicles that way. Whereas other cities come and tell us, we just haven't been able to invest in public transit. The density of our city doesn't make sense for some of the public transit systems. We'd love to have self-driving cars available for everyone in the community. So I don't quite have that answer, but that's because we think it will evolve, and there won't be one right answer for everywhere.
Cities across America are dealing with ride sharing. We've had our discussions here, and we have that implemented into our city. When it comes to driverless cars, are we going to own these cars, or do you anticipate that we're all going to be sharing the same cars?
Yeah, that's another thing where we're hearing people's feedback. I definitely meet people who say, I want to own a self-driving car. And so that's a potential business model for sure. But we do hear from a lot of people that say that they don't want to. You know, they recognize that cars sit idle for 96% of their life, and yet they're the second most expensive thing households invest in. So for those folks, you know, perhaps something closer to a rideshare or a taxi or even a public transit use of self-driving vehicles will be hopefully possible.
And finally, would you anticipate that that a driverless car would be driving a lot more close on the highway? In other words, there's so much capacity in our roads, but a lot of that capacity is taken up by the fact that because of safety concerns, you're supposed to be 10 car lengths behind or whatever. But with a driverless car and that technology, I assume you could compress that exponentially, and the existing capacity on our roads would probably handle a lot more traffic into the system that you're describing. Am I on the right track there?
Yeah, we've definitely seen academics do studies about what will happen one day when there are self-driving cars everywhere. And that's one thing that logically makes sense, given the sensors all around the vehicle and their ability to react and see everything around them. You do think that they could drive closer together. I guess the one thing that I would say is I don't think that one day we'll wake up and all of a sudden there'll only be self-driving cars on the road and that they'll be everywhere. I really think they'll roll out, just like how we're rolling out the development of the technology and addressing different technological challenges, such as weather. So for instance, we haven't driven in tornadoes yet. Maybe one day.
I don't think that's probably a good idea.
So I don't think it's just going to be one day there'll be self-driving cars everywhere. And that's why it's important for us that we can drive in the infrastructure and with the other people who use the roads today.
Mayor Fischer, I want to change subjects here a little bit. You've had a chance to kind of look around our city a little bit. I know you've been here before. Your city, like our city, was founded on a river. Unlike ours, yours had water in it.
Lots of water.
What is your city's relationship with the river, and what opportunities are you seeing Louisville try to engage in to try and bring the river as an asset, as opposed to just being something that might have brought freight in a different era?
Yeah. So as I said, our city was founded in the late 1700s, and people would be bringing the freight down the river, and then there's what's called the Falls of the Ohio, where it drops 18 feet. So people would actually stop. They'd have to portage their freight down to another place to get back on the river, and off they went until the canal was built, which we've recently discovered. Abraham Lincoln, as a young boy, worked on that canal. And so the river was vital to us, and we were a top 10 U.S. city as the population moved westward for us. And then, we went away from the river to rail. We became a big rail hub as well. And then you have interstates, and of course, the world's changed since then. Right now, and the city then turned its back on the river for about 100 years. So if you came to Louisville, you'd see junkyards and all kind of just stuff that was not at all helpful along the river. And then the rivers of our country became polluted and all this. So fortunately, over the last 30 years, we've turned back toward the river and embraced the river. We have one of the world's top 10 parks along our river now, that was designed by George Hargraves, who I understand his firm is designing one of your all's parks here as well. So we've turned the riverfront just into a massive park. Residential is now being built on that as well, because there's nothing like looking at the water. And I notice you don't have residential, it seems like, on your river. Maybe that's yet. Yeah. But that's been a real hot growth area for us as well. So it's the front yard to our community where we do our major festivals, that Thunder Over Louisville that you saw. That's held on the river. That will draw between 500 and 700,000 people a year to come down for that. So it's mainly recreation and residential use now, and the river's been cleaned up, so there's water skiing, there's kayaking, all that on the river as well.
Across the country, I hear mayors talk about the disconnect with leading their city and the relationship with their state legislature. There's also seems to be a rural-urban divide. Are you experiencing that in Kentucky?
The worst part of my job is dealing with the state legislature. How's that? We have we're a state, as I mentioned, about 4.5 million people. If the metropolitan areas, so Louisville, Lexington, and northern Kentucky is right out around Cincinnati, could organize in the General Assembly, we would have the votes to kind of drive a metropolitan agenda. But these groups are big enough that they have divisions within themselves. So it's a real competitive disadvantage. So what happens is the rural legislatures are more aligned, so they vote more toward their interests. So when you take a look at the challenges that cities have around infrastructure development, whether it be sewer, water, roads, we certainly need that money more than a road to nowhere out in rural Kentucky. The eastern part of our state is a real challenge. That's Appalachia. And if you've never visited Appalachia, I'd suggest you go there. It's a fascinating place, but it is full of all kinds of challenges. You know, a coal-based economy, mountainous, very difficult from an economic development standpoint, very expensive to develop there as well. So, you know, our position is that you should put the money where your lead product line is in a business sense. And the lead product line for states, it's Oklahoma City, it's Louisville, it's Lexington, and the more the money comes here, the more taxes we'll be able to generate for the benefit of the rest of the state. We generate about $2.5 billion a year in taxes, send it to our state capital, and get back about half of that. So we've got some challenges there, but we'll keep growing. You know, we're growing despite all that, and we've got a lot of great momentum because people are moving to our city.
What do you think of driverless cars in Jennifer's presentation?
I went to South by Southwest a couple months ago, and they gave a driverless car demo for the mayors that were there. So, I mean, it works. So you get in there and you say...
You've been in a driverless car.
Yeah, we drove around Austin, and it seemed to me like that driverless car had more skill than most drivers that I've been with. Because, I mean, it sees 360. Mm-hmm. So, and driverless trucks, I would think, would be a real obvious thing to do. And I guess you all are working on that. I know some people are on highways much easier. So it will be part of our future. The question just is when and where, but it was very impressive.
Jennifer, do you or does your company have an opinion about the Hyperloop and Elon Musk's effort to move people at 700 miles per hour in little capsules and transport them, you know, around the country?
I can't say I'm familiar with the Hyperloop, but I guess I would say, you know, transportation is such an important part of all of our lives that I think it's great to see that innovation in transportation, and it's an exciting time to be part of transportation, both from the innovation from cities, like your city, and from companies really taking another look at transportation.
All right. Good. And I think a message there for us is, you know, some people look at old industries and don't think you can innovate. You know, like is a car an old industry? Or look at all the innovation that's taking place now around transportation, or for that matter, bourbon. You know, bourbon, people say that's an old industry. We're turning into this massive tourism industry right now. So you can always innovate. It doesn't have to be a software company or a medical device company.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, we have a question from the audience, Jennifer. Will Oklahoma City become a test market for the Google self-driving car? How do we get in line?
Well, I will say your mayor has definitely made a pitch, so he's working for you. You know, we aren't looking to expand right now, but we do really want self-driving cars to be able to work everywhere. And I will say we really appreciate innovative cities. I think cities that are willing to embrace new technologies, things that are still developing. And I can tell you from the places that we're driving now, sometimes it's not that fun to be driving near a self-driving car. We really are starting our vehicles to drive quite conservatively. I don't know about you, but when I start driving near a self-driving car, you know, I don't really want an aggressive 80-mile-an-hour driving car near me. I'd rather have one that I know is keeping safety in mind, but that means sometimes we get accused like driving like your grandma. So hopefully by the time we get here, we've maybe made some improvements on that.
Mayor Fischer, you have in Louisville kind of a regional government, a city and a county that work together. How seamless does that work, and is that an efficient model that Oklahoma City and other cities should seek to emulate?
Well, it's been fantastic for us. So it's not a separate city and county. It is a new government. So for instance, I'm both the in old terms, both the mayor and the county judge. We merged our police departments. Our economic development efforts are run by one group within my realm. We had 4 different votes were required to get us to merge as a city and county government, and over the period of a couple decades. And once it did happen, we had to make some concessions. So, for instance, there were 21 different suburban fire departments. So we said, okay, they can stay in existence because there was just too much political difficulty where they were fighting that back. We have 80 small cities, and we allowed them to keep their independence. And they're basically anywhere from a glorified neighborhood association to one city that's got 30,000 people, but they all operate under the Louisville Metro government now. So it's been great for business. We have increased our revenue in terms of a tax standpoint since we merged by about 30%, and we've decreased our headcount by about 10% in terms of government workers. So it's become much more efficient, and we're much more unified, able to move much more quickly on issues that come to us and opportunities that come to us.
Question from the audience. It says, Mayor Fischer, when taking office during the Great Recession, you say you invested in training and employee management systems. How did you convince the legislature and the constituency to make that forward-thinking investment in its government employees?
Well, they didn't really know what I was doing. They probably didn't understand it. So we've got, and Mayor, you referred to this, so we have a strong mayor form of government in Louisville. So my relationship with the Metro Council is I need to appear before them 1 time a year, and that's just to present a budget. So I've got a lot of autonomy. So we dedicated part of our human resources efforts to training. We created the Louis Stat system, created an office for globalization, office for innovation, a couple new things at the beginning. And so the council has to approve the budget. And they were happy to do that. I explained it to them. Some of them didn't understand it, but they didn't want that to be their first fight with me. So since then, like for instance, the money that we invest in performance improvement and innovation has a 7-to-1 return. So when people question whether or not it's wise to train your people, they can say, well, here's the training and here's the results. And you can see real tangible differences. So for instance, in our inspections, permits, and licensing with our development areas, we've cut our cycle time by 66% in that area. So we're a much easier place to do business, much more efficient, much more fair as well. So people really have embraced it.
Jennifer, driverless cars, if a wreck occurs, who's at fault? What's the liability? Is it the driver? Is it the programmer?
Yeah.
Who do you point the finger at?
So, especially now while we're testing, we own our fleet. So we're liable for our fleet of vehicles. One of the nice things about self-driving cars is there will be a lot more data about what really happened. And certainly if it's, for instance, I'm going to use a taxi as an example again. If you're a passenger in a taxi and your taxi driver gets into an accident, it's hard to see why, as a passenger, would be liable. But self-driving cars will have a lot more of that data to really determine what happened.
Another question from the audience. If it rains or if it snows, how does a driverless car perform?
Yeah. One of the common things if you read about self-driving cars that you'll read as a criticism is they don't work in snow. And that's actually not really true. It's just that we haven't gotten to the snow part of our technology roadmap. And actually this year we started driving some of our cars up into Lake Tahoe because it finally snowed in California. And part of the reason why we expanded our testing to Kirkland, Washington was the fact that we were suffering through a 4-year drought in the Bay Area. And so we wanted to have more experience driving in rain. So those are definitely things we're working on.
Yeah. Mayor Fischer, public art is an integral part of Louisville. Is that something you've tried to encourage your tenure?
We have. Public art is what I view as a celebration of the community, and it certainly brings folks together and makes them see public spaces in a different way. So we've done it through public art competitions. We've done it through recreating and repurposing space with our Resurfaced initiative, where we'll take open spaces that could be in a usually in an urban area that are just an open area, and then we program that out and bring people to that. There's always a big art component to that, whether it's public art itself or performing art. And you know, you see the soul of a city through its art, whether it be music or painting or what have you. So we try to emphasize that as much as we can. Like most cities, we don't have enough money allocated to it. Fortunately, we've got some philanthropists that help in that area. But you know, public art's fun. And people move to cities so that they can work with other people to get things done. And when you can come together and have fun, I mean, that's when you really feel your city coming alive.
One thing Mayor Fischer and I deal with is change and the reluctance of populations to accept change as positive. There's not much more of a change than what you're talking about of a driverless car. So you've got these test markets where you currently have your vehicles operating. Mm-hmm. What sort of pushback are you getting from people who have concerns about Google's testing in their cities?
I have to say, you know, coming into part of what I do is talk to the cities and communities we're in, and I always expect more pushback than I actually get, which I love. You know, I love that there are these communities that want to be part of their future, as you said. You know, you really have to make your future. It doesn't mean that we don't get any criticism. In fact, on all of our vehicles, we have our URL, and we ask people to write to us. We ask them to write to us, and it can be positive things, and we hear lots of positive things, but we ask them to tell us what they don't like as well. And so, you know, I did mention that our cars drive a little bit conservatively, so sometimes we hear about that, because certainly all of us sometimes drive quite impatiently, but that helps improve what we do. So one great example that we worked on recently is right turns on red. So since our vehicles have this 360-degree view, what they normally do is just, when it's their turn, they're up at the front of the intersection, they can see the cross traffic, right? So when there's an opening, the car makes its right turn on red. Well, people behind our vehicle started getting impatient or worrying that the car was broken. Because what do we all do when we're making a right turn on red? We start inching, right? Because we're looking to the left for that cross traffic. So one of the things we implemented was to have the vehicles start doing that inching, even though there's no technological reason to do that. But it makes the communities we're in feel better, right? And it makes it more human-like. So I think all the, whether positive or negative, feedback we get from our communities is an important part of the development.
Greg, when you were riding in the driverless car, did you have was there something you had to overcome? I mean, the fact that there wasn't a person that was determining where your car went? Was that a roadblock in your mind?
Well, my feedback for them, we had a kind of a special setup. There was somebody in the front seat, just because I don't think they wanted us to freak out or something.
Test driver.
Test driver. He was just sitting there. The biggest issue we had, and kind of similar to what you just said, Jennifer, was the braking was too, you know, fast. You know, we kind of all, you know, when you're learning how to drive, you want to have this effortless braking system, you know, where nothing moves in the car. So I think you all since changed your cars to where they're braking a little bit more smoothly. But it was phenomenal. And people look at it, and it's kind of odd. People wave at driverless cars. I don't understand that.
Jennifer, most of the, or maybe all, of the driverless cars are electric cars. Do you see that as the future of the autonomous vehicle?
So our Lexus fleet, like what you rode in, is actually a hybrid vehicle. And then the prototypes we built are fully electric. The technology is really powertrain agnostic, but we certainly, as a company, Google supports a lot of green energy efforts, so it's exciting for us to use hybrid and electric vehicles.
All right. Hey, it's great to have you in town, and Mayor Fischer, welcome back to Oklahoma City. Good to have you here. I look forward to seeing you down the line.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. I did want to spend a few minutes that I have to discuss and kind of give you, to a certain extent, kind of a state of the city, or maybe kind of and aim it a little bit more toward the economy. For, gosh, you know, over a year now, we've been dealing with depressed energy prices. And I think because our city is so emotionally attached to the oil and gas industry, there's this immediate sense of semi-depression because we've been through this before. And we know that some people are likely to lose their jobs, and some people are likely to lose a steady income from royalties that they might have, been assuming into their annual income. And even if you're not tied to the oil and gas industry, you almost kind of retreat from your free spending habits, and there's a consumer confidence issue which weighs on the city's ability to collect sales tax, and that just kind of feeds on itself, and before you know it, you've had a city that had a its certain growth trajectory, and suddenly its confidence is down. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. And we throw out intellectual data like only 3% of our workforce is employed directly in the oil and gas industry. And maybe we feel better about it, but yes, we've diversified, and we know that a lot of the higher paid jobs come from that industry, and then there's spill-off effect. And still it seems like we should, be struggling, and we should be concerned about the future. But when you look around Oklahoma City, it really does look different this time. Seems to me like in the past, in 2008, for instance, when we had oil and gas prices retreat, it seemed like a lot of the construction projects halted too. In other words, if a construction project was about to come out of the ground, it probably didn't come out of the ground. And some projects that had already started stopped in mid-construction. And you're not seeing much of that now. In fact, the construction industry is doing extremely well, and a lot of jobs are being created in the construction industry. We're seeing jobs in aviation. We're seeing jobs grow in biomedical. As recently as November, which was several months into the oil and gas price reduction, I remember looking at data that showed we had more people employed in the Oklahoma City metro than ever before. And so I understand that to a certain extent this emotional tie to the oil and gas industry is real because we make it real, but there really is this sense, I think, intellectually that it is different this time. And all you have to do is take a look at all of the projects that are coming out of the ground. And so in that vein, we prepared a slideshow that kind of shows some of the projects that we are still working on. Now, we're going to start with the government projects, the ones that primarily the city is working on. And the first one up here is Project 180. So how many of you have seen the construction on Park Avenue and wonder when that's finally going to get completed? When you haven't dug up a street in 120 years, it's amazing what you'll find when you get down there. And so this is it's not even a once-in-a-generation thing. This is a once-ever thing. Interesting to me that when we're digging up that street, for instance, and some of the other streets in the central business district, we don't know what's down there. It's like the people that built streets in generations past didn't bother to write anything down or to draw a picture of where they were putting certain things. And so when we're preparing these new streets and we run into something, first of all, we have to figure out what it is, and then we have to figure out if we can take it out, and then we typically might need to bring in a utility company to kind of look at their end of it, and it is a very slow process. But I think it's almost universal that Project 180 has been one of the best things we ever did for this city. It more than anything else has been a visual reminder of how we had designed this city around cars and not people. And it's a great example of how the city looks differently. I can remember trying to cross the street as a pedestrian, 10 years ago. And you push the walk, don't walk sign, and you start walking across those one-way, 5 lanes of road, and you start jogging. And before the end of it, you've completely lost faith in the system, and you're just running to get across the street. And now that we've highly landscaped these streets, we put on-street parking down there, And suddenly, all of a sudden, there's a lot of people walking around downtown Oklahoma City. You can't hardly go out when you don't see not only people walking, but people are jogging. And they're exercising. They're choosing to spend as much time in this urban setting as they possibly can. And don't forget, Project 180 financed the redesign and construction of the Myriad Botanical Gardens, which is as fine of an urban park as you're going to see anywhere. And just a few months ago, won the worldwide ULI competition on best green space, beating out Millennial Park in Chicago as one of the finalists. So that park, the rest of the Project 180 thing, I think has been an extraordinary positive thing for Oklahoma City. It's not quite done yet. When we're through with Park Avenue, we'll be moving over onto Shields in front of the old train station. Now, as you may know, as part of MAPS 3 and part of a federal grant we are refurbishing the old train station to be a multimodal hub going forward. It's a $30 million makeover. But at the same time, we're also going to be redesigning with Project 180 standards one of the most unwalkable streets anywhere, and that is E.K. Gaylord, as it fronts between Reno and a few blocks north. And so, that's an opportunity to take something that was as unwalkable as you can imagine and turn it into a pedestrian hub. So I'm anxious to see how that unfolds as well. Always good to see pictures, though, of Project 180. You see the construction pictures here. These are some actual photos of what it looks like today. Now, doesn't this look better than it did? You see the testament to Gary Brooks there on the left, the First National Center, the Oklahomans building there up front, right here on Sheridan, the Myriad Botanical Gardens Park, picture of the Devon building behind on Sheridan. There's the new parking garage that's near City Hall over on Main Street. Now let's move over to the MAPS 3 projects. We're in one of the more exciting times of MAPS 3, and in this calendar year, you see a lot of construction, and of course, just last week, we opened up the River Sport Rapids and hosted the Olympic trials. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me, and these are people that I cannot imagine I would ever see in a kayak in a whitewater atmosphere, and have said how pleased they are that we constructed this River Sport Rapids. And it almost is, I think, a reminder of the generational aspect of MAPS as a brand, that it is all about preparing a better city for the next generation. And even if a person has absolutely no intent of ever getting in a raft, they're glad that the city constructed it, because it might make a better city for their kid or their grandkid or some generational impact down the line for a relative that they will never meet. Yeah, this was a good idea. Let's have the mayor hold a kayak and stand in front of the Skydance Bridge. I was just surprised I could hold it. And I have yet to go down the river, but I promise it's going to happen soon. This is not me. This is an actual athlete going down the kayak, and this was from the Road to Rio competition. Thank you to the Oklahoman for that photo. Another picture of the tremendous success of the opening weekend. And, I don't know that I ever thought I would be placing Olympic medals around people's necks, but that was a real thrill for Terry and I to be out there Sunday as the Olympians, with tears in their eyes, realized in Oklahoma City that they're going to be representing their country in the U.S. Olympics this summer. It's an emotional experience. We are in full construction mode on the first Senior Wellness Center. It's under construction out far northwest. We're about to start construction very soon on our second Senior Wellness Center, which will be in the south part of the city. We have 2 more of these coming. This is a reminder of the baby boom generation getting older and the demographic shifts that are taking place in our community and every other community out there. The wellness demands going forward are only going to grow. And by getting out in front of this, I really think it's a forward-thinking move by the citizens of Oklahoma City to invest in this type of capital construction. We don't know exactly how these are going to be programmed long-term because we want the people that use it to help determine how to program it. But you can see how people who might want to go exercise or might be in a medical rehab situation might enjoy going to these places. Some people might just want to congregate and play checkers, and that's a good thing too. We're all trying to figure out how we can do better on mental health and try to keep more people active in their older ages. And all of these are reasons to think these MAPS 3 Senior Wellness Centers are going to be a great additions to our city. And it's always good to have MAPS 3 invested outside of the downtown core, out where people live in their neighborhoods. You probably have noticed that construction has begun on the downtown park. You know it's construction because there's just a load of dirt being turned over there over and over again as the utility lines and utility abatements are being made for this 70-acre park that will transform downtown Oklahoma City and give it the green space and the size of a green space that we've never had before. Park scheduled to open in 2018 in phase 1, and I think it's going to be a transformational step forward like we have not seen before in recent years. Another views of MAPS 3, and you can see how it interacts with the downtown skyline. This would be, of course, looking from near I-40 and looking back toward the Devon Tower. It'll have something for everyone. It'll have playgrounds like typical urban parks, but it'll also have green spaces and opportunities to recreate. It'll be inhabited by people who enjoy running and biking and just going outside to read a book. But this will become the city's playground of the future. Notice also how everybody's thin in the future. It's one of my favorite aspects about all the designs I've seen of the park. Obesity has been cured by the time that our park opens in 2018. The streetcar will be becoming a reality here inside of this calendar year. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Project 180 and the new multimodal hub that's part of MAPS 3 that we're going to be redesigning E.K. Gaylord. Because we're already going to be tearing up that street, that'll be the first place where you're going to see rail installed for the new streetcar. So in, say, December, I think you'll start to see the first rail go down. We're also, I think, excited to know that our streetcars are currently being constructed inside a plant in northwestern Pennsylvania. And, you know, to actually soon see pictures of them, I think it's going to be another reminder that this really is going to happen. It's going to change public transit as we know it in Oklahoma City and continue this transformation into a more pedestrian-friendly community. Here's the first bike trail we opened with MAPS 3. This was a few months back, and I assure you that the other riders stayed back and allowed me to cross the finish line first to break the ribbon. And this reminds me, in a year in which the world of sports lost one of its icons, Yogi Berra, of a saying that Yogi Berra once is reportedly to have originated. And it applied to the opening of this park because just a few weeks after it opened, I heard it was so crowded that someone said it's so crowded that no one goes there anymore. As you probably know, we are in the final stages of design for our second bike trail that will take us from the river up the I-44 corridor toward Lake Hefner. You'll see construction on that taking place here before the end of the year. The bids will be going out, so the construction on the second trail is going to be taking place, and there's another one after that. Here's my hero, Tom McDaniel, helping me at a ribbon cutting at a sidewalk. How many of you have seen sidewalk construction in Oklahoma City? This one was at Penn and probably about Hefner or Britain. You know, again, an opportunity for us to connect a neighborhood with a shopping opportunity that had really never been taken place before. We had gone decades building schools and libraries and neighborhoods and never really connecting them. And going in and doing it later is more expensive, but worth it nonetheless. And if you have a sidewalk in your neighborhood, hopefully Tom and I can come and remove the boards when it's finished construction. We are in the concept development for the convention center. This is the most expensive project in MAPS 3 at a budget of around $280 million. It has been sited to go just south of the Chesapeake Energy Arena, and it will front the boulevard. Currently, the designers are looking at how it interacts with the park, which of course would be just across the street looking to the west. How do we deal with potential of sunlight? How do we deal with gatherings that might take place outside? How do we provide windbreaks? What do the meeting rooms look like? Are they glass or are they solid? You know, how do people move about? And how can the park accentuate the convention center and work seamlessly together? And so a lot of the decisions that we make in these design concepts are going to affect the level of success that our convention center ultimately has. So these are important decisions on a building that we hope lasts just as long as our current convention center has lasted, which is now nearly 50 years. A lot of new development taking place, though. This is from the private sector side as we transition, and this is the 499 building along West Sheridan. It's obviously under construction. It's hard to miss if you are over in that part of the area just to the south of City Hall. This is a 25-story building. The bottom 2 floors are of retail and should open up here in less than 2 years, I'm told, and be a significant addition to our skyline. And keep in mind that before the Devon Tower arrived, we hadn't had really any new additions to our skyline since the early 1980s. But this is going to have a lot of Class A office space, over 1 million square feet, dining and fitness facilities, and it's something that I know our economic development people are anxious to add to our existing inventory. How many of you saw the GE logo go on the side of the GE building? Wasn't that impressive? One of the more iconic brands in the world, now emblazoned in an exciting project for Oklahoma City. This is 10,000 square feet, and it's an oil and gas innovation district, really. It's a research center that will allow some of the newest technology in the oil and gas sector to be created in Oklahoma City. Should be completed here in the mid part of this year. They're going to have test wells inside this facility, 20 inches in diameter, 400 feet deep. It has an outdoor laboratory area, and it's a great way for us to kind of kick off what we think is our reinvention of the innovation district. We had always looked at the innovation district in the past as a place where jobs were located, and I think futuristically we're going to start saying, well, how do we live, work, and play in the innovation district? What do we do to make it more pedestrian friendly? What do we do to bring housing development and housing opportunities into the innovation district? And so I think when we look back at Oklahoma City in 10 or 20 years, that's going to be one of the areas that is going to change the most dramatically. And I think we'll look back at GE's investment in Oklahoma City and say, you know, that was really the catalyst for a lot of the new development that's taking place. We've already spent a lot of time in this, another picture of the GE Global Research Center. We've spent quite a bit of time already today talking about the 21C, so I'm not going to expand on it too much, other than to, you know, just to remind you that I think they're taking bookings from June 27th on. And so that's kind of an important date if you're the construction part of this equation. If they're going to have people staying here on June 27th, the place better be open. But the restaurant, the art that is going to take place in here is going to be transformational for Oklahoma City. And you know, Mayor Fischer mentioned earlier that the art is a little bit edgy. I'm still concerned we're not ready for the edginess of the art, but stand by, because it's coming whether we're ready or not. We also learned this week that the color of our penguin is going to be purple. Now, you may not think that's a big idea, but once you get inside of 21C and you see how many penguins are standing around waiting on you, you will understand totally. And everyone in every hotel in the 21C group does have a different color. The inside of a 21C room, you see those are the windows, obviously, of the old Fred Jones Ford manufacturing plant. All right, the music venues that have come online have dramatically changed Oklahoma City. This is the Tower Theater on 23rd on the left side of your screen, the Criterion on the right. The Tower holds about 1,200 people. The Criterion holds 3,000 to 4,000, and as you know, it's already open. How many have been to an event at the Criterion already? Oh, come on. Clap if you've been there, because I can't necessarily see your line. Okay, well then the rest of you need to go. I mean, this is an extraordinary addition to the cultural aspects of Oklahoma City and that part of Bricktown, and it has met or exceeded, I think, everyone's expectation. Far out north, Chisholm Creek. Several new businesses are opening up. Leases have been inked with Republic Gastropub, Fuzzy's Tacos, something called Yokozuna. Does anyone know what that is? Am I the only one that doesn't know? Sushi. Yokozuna sushi. Jerky.com. Someone help me with that? Beef jerky. Okay, you didn't know we needed a beef jerky place. It's coming to Chisholm Creek. It's also going to have a nail salon, a day spa. You already know about Top Golf and the other developments that are coming here. Let's take another picture of Chisholm Creek. Mixed-use development that's coming. So this is a suburban development unlike many we've seen before. High-end opportunities to recreate and play, and you know we've spent a lot of time trying to create that type of environment downtown, and the success of that is now spilled over into this development, which is I know exciting a lot of people, and it sounds like from the type of tenants they're able to attract, it's going to get every one of us out there at one time or another. All right, here's the Steel Yard in Bricktown. This is a mixed-use development. Let's go far out northwest. This is the Paycom office expansion. Paycom is planning to hire 423 new workers. They're building a $14 million new building. They're also investing $2 million more on new equipment. And I talked before about, when the oil and gas industry has contracted here recently, we've heard about job layoffs, and what is not getting as much attention is the significant number of companies in Oklahoma City that are adding jobs. And it may be in smaller numbers, but it's a lot more companies. Paycom adding 423 new workers is just an example of that. Over in Automobile Alley, this is a mixed-use proposal at 12th and Broadway. Would be 5-story mixed use. This is an old service station on the north end of Automobile Alley, which continues to attract new development. On the northeast side of Oklahoma City at 36th and Kelly, this is the shopping center that is currently going under construction. It will have a grocery store and address one of the food deserts of our community, so we're especially excited about that. It's also a beneficiary of an exciting TIF project that we think is going to create a lot of new development along Northeast 36 and Northeast 23rd and other areas of Northeast Oklahoma City. All right, how many people have seen the Ferris wheel now that it's up? Isn't that cool? The Wheeler District is no longer now just a series of blueprints. You actually can see the Ferris wheel as it's been constructed on the south bank of the Oklahoma River, and you see the development that is planned, fully mixed-use retail development, unlike really anything else we have in the city's inventory today. And as the city continues to grow and prosper, and you can kind of sense the energy of Core to Shore and Capitol Hill expanding into this area. I was also just this past week at a ribbon cutting at Mount St. Mary's. Their first major construction project since the 1970s has now broken ground. And so you see a lot of new development coming to neighborhoods that haven't had a lot of new development. And boy, is this a great example of a very large project that will take on a part of the city that could really use some new investment. More pictures of the Wheeler District. Your favorite mayor watching the construction of the Ferris wheel out there before it was fully constructed. All right, let's move over now back over near the 21C. This is the residences that would be constructed as that part of the Film Row and continue the development along with 21C. You noticed, that as Mayor Fischer pointed out in Louisville, 21C likes to locate in areas and to be the first one in. And that kind of makes them unusual. They are risk takers. They don't mind being the catalyst for a part of your downtown business core that has been forgotten for a decade or two. And that's certainly the case here with the western part of downtown, but you can already see with Film Row coming on and this just around the corner, that the western part of downtown is developing, I think, at a much more rapid rate than anyone would have imagined. And it hadn't been that long ago that Chip Fudge showed his friend the properties he was buying, and the guy said, "Chip, you're the king of Skid Row, congratulations." Well, in just a few short years, we have seen incredible improvement, and don't forget that the new boulevard is coming along that area as well, so it's only going to get better and better. More hotels are arriving in Bricktown. This is the Canopy Hotel. It's a new Hilton brand. If you haven't heard of it, that's because it is brand new, and they're building 11 right now. They've chosen 11 cities, and we're on a list that includes London, Washington, D.C., Portland, Charlotte, Indianapolis, San Diego, Miami, Savannah, and Ithaca, New York. And I'm told that this is similar to the Aloft or the Aloft, depending on how you want to pronounce it, but it's Hilton's version. And so it's a upper scale hotel that's coming into Bricktown, and obviously a very exciting project. Speaking of the western part of downtown, you have driven by this for a long, long time and wondered just how long ago was it that there was a Sunshine Cleaners inside that building? Well, it's going to be a brew pub before long. And again, this is taking downtown's westward expansion onto the west side of Classen. And you could kind of, picture that the Plaza District and Film Row could ultimately be very well connected, with Classen getting a makeover and expanding the bikeable corridor that I think Classen could become. I think it's a very exciting step forward, and you just, like to see one development lead to the next. Here's another project that's way overdue, but very much appreciated: the Main Street Arcade renovation. Again, part of the western downtown expansion. This will be restaurants, retail, and office space. Out north at Memorial and MacArthur, this is called Threshold Climbing and Fitness, and will open in 2016. Again, adding to the quality of life in the community, a rock climbing facility, giving people one more thing to do, one more way to get hurt. I kid. We're not done in Deep Deuce, apparently. Another 97 units coming to the Mosaic Apartments. Can you imagine a few years ago the density that would be created in Deep Deuce? Obviously, another step in that transformation of downtown, and the idea, you know, it wasn't that long ago that if you lived downtown, you were in jail. And now, you know, now I live downtown, and I assure you I'm not in jail. All right, more apartments out at Chisholm Creek. This is 277 apartments out there. This is the Lift apartment building over on Chartel, 329 units. Again, a very urban design. This one kind of, last time I went by this, I'd kind of forgotten that the construction had started, and it kind of took me by surprise, because you come up on the traffic circle and it just kind of explodes into your view. But I sense that this is going to be a very popular place to stay. This is just west of St. Anthony's, and I would expect a lot of the employees at St. Anthony's that want a very quick walk to work will become tenants in this place. All right, the Metropolitan, 330 units here. This is right off I-235. You've no doubt seen this, might have wondered what it was, but this is just to the north of Deep Deuce. And here's the Civic Center Flats, 32 units that are just to the north of the Civic Center Music Hall. And you know, there's other projects we could have mentioned, and there's probably another one going to be announced tomorrow. So, you know, I don't want to be the guy that stands up here and tries to convince you something that isn't true. I mean, if doggone it, if you're going to be depressed about the oil and gas industry, go ahead. But I can't look around this city and tell you that it feels anything like the previous dips in the oil and gas economy. This really does feel different, and it's in large part a measure to your continued commitment to this city. You know, what the half a generation leadership did back in the early 1990s that has kind of set the trajectory that we're still on today, has set in motion a spirit that doesn't seem to be slowing down. And I'll remind you that we still have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, and that whenever a magazine or a website wants to rank something, it almost seems like we make a list every time. So sometimes it's hard to appreciate what's in your own backyard. But I can assure you there's a lot of people in a lot of cities around the country that want to be us. So pat yourself on the back. All right, we're going to transition now to one of my favorite parts of the day, and this is when we award the Mayor's Award for Outstanding Development. And you know, through the years, we have honored you know, the types of development that we thought were, you know, transformational in their own way. Oklahoma City University's Law School, for example, the Plaza District, Midtown's District, the Devon Energy Tower, the Chesapeake Energy Campus, the Presbyterian Health Foundation, the Bricktown property owners and the merchants that have made Bricktown into what it is today. I think our very first one was about 10 years ago, and we honored the Skirvin Hotel. You know, one of the most complex redevelopment efforts this city has ever taken on. And I remember at the time, you know, I was trying to talk about the renaissance of Oklahoma City, knowing that we had a huge boarded up hotel downtown. And thinking, you know, that's just a little bit hollow when you have your old historic hotel and we haven't been able to find a use for it. So don't ever take the Skirvin Hotel for granted. But it is my pleasure now to announce the 2016 award winner. And this is for the outstanding development, and we had a lot of things to consider, a lot of different nominations coming into us. But I am pleased to announce that we are presenting this award to the Uptown 23rd Street District Association. Let me read a little bit about it. Under the shadow of the state capitol complex has grown a grassroots effort to make critical and effective change in one of Oklahoma City's most historic districts. Northwest 23rd Street was the place that most Oklahoma City residents went to shop. The corridor was lined with drugstores and dress shops and doctor's offices and banks, shops for special occasions and everyday needs. Northwest 23rd Street was a booming street that strategically created a northern border to Heritage Hills, Mesta Park, and Gatewoods. It also was a direct path to the Oklahoma City Capitol complex. It was part of the historic Route 66. Northwest 23rd Street was a collection of iconic buildings curated to showcase the golden era of Art Deco and mid-century modern architecture and design. But as the major shopping destination of the first half of the 20th century, 23rd Street soon fell under disrepair. More and more Oklahomans took up residence in the far suburbs of Oklahoma City. The resurgence began back in the 1990s when the historic light poles and medians were placed between Hudson and Dewey on Northwest 23rd. By this time, the tenants were mostly discount shops. Even the lights of the Tower Theater had burned out years earlier. In 2011, the Uptown 23rd District Association officially began. A group of concerned and creative business and property owners gathered. They discussed their concerns and their wishes of what Northwest 23rd Street could become. Stretching from 23rd and Broadway, then west to Penn, Uptown 23rd encompasses bars, restaurants, architectural firms, law offices, retail shops, neighborhoods, and of course, the landmark Tower Theater. Don't forget the Gold Dome, the Milk Bottle Building, and Oklahoma City University. Today, these conversations have become what is now the Uptown 23rd District Association. They have over 100 members. They have 3 on staff. They have monthly and annual events, and they have even bigger plans for the future. Without the time, energy, and investment of Byron's Liquor, a Good Egg Dining Group, Pivot Project, Oklahoma City University, and others, Uptown 23rd would not be a district on the rise. Recent developments of the Mesta Building, the rise at 23rd and Walker, and renovations to the Tower Theater and surrounding units have paved the way for future developments and renovations to the district's iconic Milk Bottle Building, the Gold Dome, and additional upcoming projects along the Northwest 23rd Street corridor. We want to thank the Commercial Real Estate Council for sponsoring the fabrication of the award. So let's a round of applause for the Commercial Real Estate Council. Please join me in recognizing Uptown 23rd Street District Association accepting the award, the Executive Director, Christina Chikaraski. Christina, come on up. Where is it? Here she is with an award too big to carry. Christina.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here, and the good thing about public speaking and events like this is the lights are so bright that it's like I'm talking to a dark room. So good thing it doesn't make me that nervous. But thank you, Mayor Cornett, for this prestigious award. We're really excited to take this back and place it in our offices on Northwest 21st Street. And really, Uptown 23rd District Association embodies everything that is part of our membership and our neighbors. And we really could not be here today if it were not for the important role as part of the commercial district revitalization program through the City of Oklahoma City, the City Planning Office that has helped us so much, not only financially, but sometimes for me emotionally. And it really is a great service that you guys provide, and it really is connecting all of the dots. You know, I always say that Oklahoma City is like a city filled with people from small towns that have come together and made a larger unit. And so we still have that small town charm. We're all interested and invested in each other's current, present, and our futures and our past. And so we're really excited to be a part of that. Also, our board members, we could not be here today without the dedication of that small group of business members that got together in the Cheevers dining room over pecan balls, of course. So obesity may not be totally gone in the future at pecan ball, guys. But without them, we would not be here as a district association in the current state that we are in. So we're really lucky to have those people that paved the way for us early on. We have our key neighborhoods. We're so proud to be a part of Heritage Hills and Mesta Park, Jefferson Park, Gatewood, the Paseo neighborhood. We're really glad that they are a part and they are members in our association. We also are really excited about the things that we've been able to be a part of and the things that we get to continue to be a part of. So we are so excited that we got to be a part of Open Streets OKC again for the 3rd year in a row. And we're excited that over 40,000 people decided to come and walk on 23rd Street on a Sunday afternoon when there was no beer being served. There was no loud music being played. It was literally just about being active and being out with your neighbors and getting to visit those local businesses and getting to see those people that you may not get to see. We like to joke that that spring event is like our awakening. We've all been in the house all winter and we haven't been able to be outside. It's always my first sunburn of the year, you know. We go out and we socialize and we get to literally walk on 23rd Street, which is just during a normal day with the second busiest thoroughfare through Oklahoma City, seems a little crazy. Also, our Uncorked, our fundraiser, if it weren't for you guys who bought tickets and brought raffle tickets and attended our events, that's 1/3 of our budget. And so if we didn't have people supporting us through those events, then we would not be able to support me or our other 2 staff people that we have on staff. Lastly, most exciting, this Sunday is our beginning of our farmers market season. And if you guys made it out at all last summer, you know that we are doing our best to give a service to the community. That multiple people came and said to me, Christina, we need something. We need to be outside and we want to see a farmers market. And I was like, oh, farmers market shouldn't be hard, right? Like turn some trucks around, sell some watermelons, no problem, right? Wrong. So I don't know if you know this, but there are city and county regulations and permits and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I have a master's degree. I can figure this stuff out. But we got it done last year, all legally, so we're good. We're returning. They haven't shut us down yet. So we will be returning every month. We're actually doing the 1st and 3rd Sundays now through the season, so we're really excited to have 12 farmers markets this year. And so we're excited to kick that off this Sunday on North Walker between Northwest 23rd Street and 25th Street. So get yourself some brunch at the Drake. Eat lots of food, come burn it off, come to the farmer's market. It'll be great. What's better than stimulating the local economy than supporting a farmer that lives in our neighborhoods? We are striving to be more pedestrian and bike friendly. We see that as we want to be that conduit of change for the city. I know you say people are afraid of change. We aren't. We want to be that conduit. We want to see those experimental bike lanes. We want to see what it looks like when people can walk from their neighborhoods, see a show at the Tower Theater, go get happy hour drinks somewhere else, go to the gym, drop their dogs off at the vet clinic. We want to see all of that within walkable distance, and we're really excited that we have those things for our neighbors, and being able to give those neighbors their livelihood to where they can walk and bike with safety is really important to us. Like crosswalks and those little buttons you push that tell you you can walk across the street. We're really excited about those types of things. Bike racks, we put in 11 bike racks last year. and other amenities that we look forward to in the future. We want to fill empty buildings and lots and make them useful public spaces for all of our communities. So those people that come to Uptown 23rd because they heard we were cool and we rad and we're part of Route 66 and we have the Tower Theater and we won this really cool award from the mayor, we want them to come and be able to utilize that. But we also want our neighbors to be able to see that difference to where they can still walk from their kids' school if they go to Wilson Elementary, or if they're students at OCU or OU Health Sciences, or you work at the Capitol building. We want to have those services for you. So we want to fill those spaces. And we want to create even better community atmosphere. So I just want to say thank you again. And when we're done, I want to invite my board members up. It's literally so heavy. I was told I can't lift it. So if you guys want to come up, we're going to take a picture with it. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, let's have our board come on up and take a picture. This is it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're so proud of Northwest 23rd Street, and please thank, I know that you have 100 members, please thank them.
I will individually.
Yeah, individually.
Yes, handwritten notes.
The board comes up here. This will give me a chance to just, thank a few people today, because I'm going to introduce Tom McDaniel, who's going to come back up and kind of close out the ceremony here. I want to thank everyone who attended today. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank those of you who are out in the development community, who are already involved in projects or maybe thinking about your next projects. I want to thank the bankers who are going to lend them the money to do their projects. I want to thank our guests who flew in today and the other speakers who were involved in our lightning round. I want to thank the staff, the city staff that's involved in helping to put this on. And just proof positive that you always save the best for last, I want to thank my wife, Terry, for specifically being here today and in general just putting up with me. So thank you. And with that, here's Tom McDaniel. Tom.
I will say to those of you who join us from out of town today that 20 years ago or so, we earned a reputation in our community for what came to be known as the Oklahoma Standard. And we know that a really important part of that Oklahoma Standard is saying thank you. And we want to say some special thank yous as we close our program today. I want to start by saying thank you to Jennifer and Mayor Fischer. It was fantastic of you to come. And we want to thank Midtown Renaissance and the University of Central Oklahoma MBA program for sponsoring our two national speakers today. Also want to say thank you to each of you who were table sponsors and helped support this in a financial way that made it possible. Also want to say thank you to the Commercial Real Estate Council for they fabricated that wonderful trophy you saw that was too heavy for Christina to carry off. They guaranteed us it would never be stolen. Also want to say thank you to the VAST, to the Colcord Hotel, the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, the Downtown OKC. They all worked towards sponsoring the speaker's reception last night. Also want to say thank you to the Ambassador Hotel for sponsoring the speaker accommodations. And finally, I want to say thank you to the steering committee that worked so hard to make this happen. It included Leslie Batchelor, Nolan Coyle, Kenny Dennis, Jonathan Dodson, Carl Edwards, Kurt Foreman, Leslie Good, Aubrey Hammondtree, Jim Hassenbach, Deshaun Heisel, Johnson Hightower, Steve Hill, Jane Jenkins, Kristen Vales, and Sam Vinyl. I also want to remind you that we need to recycle your badges, and so if you'll leave those as you leave. Just this one final thought that I want to say, Mayor Fischer, that you have reminded me that of something that I will close our meeting with your effort on compassion. I borrowed these words from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "Is one of life's most unusual and unexpected compensations that you can never truly try to help others without helping yourself." See you next year.